Phil Viz, longtime OG Olympian bodybuilding coach and potentially the most outspoken man in the bodybuilding industry, and Mike Metzger, 21 years of manufacturing experience including biomedical and chemical, former CIA intelligence officer, former pro strongman competitor, and owner of APR Health Solutions.
It was nearly impossible that they were making legitimate GH. I asked her, would it be possible to manipulate the peptides to test positive like GH? And she said, absolutely. There's a lot of that going on. And even back when John Meadows was my mentor, he believed that it was GH secretagogues with ADH added to try to mimic the side effects.
There's absolutely players in the market that are just using those secretagogues, and they'll throw in some other things. I've even seen them throw in a little bit of a diuretic to try and mimic the Genotropin effect, where you look a little bit drier. You're talking about like $30 million for a manufacturing facility that would be able to make the cheaper generic versions of the HGH.
I have clients sometimes Anavar on hand for contest prep in case they get little tweaks and injuries, because Anavar will heal that shit up real fast. I forgot about that.
I'm so fucking happy. It's almost like I have.
Oh, that's a great one.
Maybe some strength athletes or people on prep or something like that that are utilizing some Tren that are normally huffing and puffing and feel like they want to fall off the Stairmaster. It pretty much cancels that out. Based on human studies, actually on this one, substantially reduce the amount and risk and toxicity of that buildup while you're running certain compounds.
I have a different angle I can give on this. If I have somebody who has a higher propensity of putting on body fat, like bigger boned person, bigger, thicker person, is much more likely to get fat. What I'm going to try to do is I'm going to try to design a stack and an entire approach that's going to be geared more towards what you think gives more of an acute boost in endurance, Cardarine or SLU.
Look what I started off the day with. Neurolift APR for the podcast. And this thing called visual hair growth. Almost sounds like your last name, Phil. It's crazy.
I wonder where that name came from.
I wonder how that happened. Hey, listen, if it works, right?
Bro, and the hair? It's looking pretty good right now.
Dude, you're fucking great, too.
I gotta say, you two have convinced me.
Me and Mike were like sending back information back and forth, like formulating that and troubleshooting that for like, what, months? We're like every other day we were coming up with something new. Did you hear about this? Did you see this research? Did you see that? Just like
That's
literally
awesome.
every single day there was like something new that we were like finding. And there's an interaction. Okay, we got to remove this one. We got to add this one. We got to pull this one out. And we just kept like going.
How many more ingredients can we add before it comes out of solution? That was fun.
That was
Because
fun.
that sucker's got just about everything in there that you could want. But yeah, it was like, well, maybe we can add one more. Or it's getting a little chunky here.
Like how many can we put in there?
Exactly. It was fun to formulate, though. I gotta say, like,
You get the effective dose still.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, none of those are pixie dust ingredients in there.
No, definitely not.
Literally every single time I posted on a story, there'd be a bunch of DMs telling me that this is the most stacked shit that they've ever seen.
We were trying to get our hands on like ones that were still in trials and shit. Like that might be illegal. We were like,
we were definitely digging.
We were sending each other research back and forth about ones that are still in trials, that are still, going through the testing. We were like, can this be sold as a research chem?
Hey, we were able to get pretty much everything we wanted to, though. And, it's the highest selling product that APR has, I'll say. And we get phenomenal feedback from folks on it. So
That's awesome.
people seem to be liking it. And look, I got the worst hair genetics out of anyone on the planet. And I still have some hair going on here. Haven't had the transplant yet. Looking forward to it, though. Given your all successes, but everyone in my family was bald by the time they were 25. So the fact that I'm in my 40s, oh yeah, dude, my grandfather on both sides, my dad, like everyone in my family was bald by the time they hit 30. I mean, like completely bald.
Damn, that is wild. Dude, one of my fraternity brothers like had a receding hairline when we were in college. It's like 20 years old, dude. Sometimes you just don't got it, man.
Yeah. So this is at least one way that you can pound your own genetics into submission and keep some of your hair.
Yeah. What's the
It seemed to help with the let's say the repair and the recovery from the hair transplant too?
I think a lot of things played a part in that, because I was also doing injectable BPC. I was also doing Pharma grade GH. I was using the red light cap therapy to multi-frequency. I was doing that every single day. I was using the shampoo. I was doing pretty much everything you can think of. So it's really hard to isolate like which single one thing did it. But no, your hair looks great. But do you remember when we first did our first podcast and we had gone roughly the same time, but because of all the things that I took and because you weren't following the recovery protocol, I was like way ahead of you at that point because of like the BPC and the DH and just everything else. It was because I was taking a lot more things than you were taking. And you were like, yeah, I'd remember once in a while. But it looks really good now.
Thank you, bro. I mean, the only thing I've been using is y'all's visual hair regrowth thing from APR because I don't know. I just didn't really want to. I'm a fucking cheapsake and I'm fucking lazy and I didn't want to do the PRP. So
I did do the PRP.
You said you were doing the red light cap. You said, were you doing the pulsing red light or did you just leave the red light on with the pulsing? Okay. Nice, because we started selling the combination hat with the serum, and it does have the pulsing red light on there.
Yeah, that's the way. That's you want to know pulsing multi-frequency. It doesn't get too hot. You can wear it for a long period of time. I did it for like 30 minutes a day. Everything recovered so fast. Every time, like even when I'm down here in South Florida, when I went to get the PRP done, and I went to obviously at the Miami location to get it done because I wanted to go to something good, and usually they feel some type of way about you not getting the transplant done with them because I went to Turkey and, they want to find something to criticize. And so when I went in, they're like, oh yeah, well, Turkey doesn't do as good a job. And I looked at my head, they're like, your head, like, this is surprising. Like, this is really good. I was like, yeah, they did a really, like, you know what? Like they did a really good job. I was like, wow, to see their competition say that. I was like, I was very, very
especially
happy.
Miami.
Oh, dude,
how helpful is the red light cap thing, really?
What is that?
How helpful is the red light cap thing, really?
I feel like it made a big difference. I do it for my hair. I do it for my face. It's got so much research behind it. We're not really guessing. The only thing we don't know is to what extent it helps. But we do know that it absolutely helps with healing, rejuvenation, aging, things like that. Like I can get right up on the camera. The lines in my face are really not that bad, especially for my age. Okay. So, red light plays a big difference. My friend Joe Sullivan, world record powerlifter, even uses that on his dogs.
Oh, he does he really? Oh, that's hilarious.
Yeah, he really does.
I can't believe I didn't know that. No, I see Joe like every other day in Vegas.
Nakri is one of the smartest people in the entire industry. Like you guys know how I like to talk up, and it's very hard for me to speak to people that speak my language. Dude, I love talking to him because same level, we don't have to dumb anything down. We can refer to crazy mechanisms. No, I don't have to break anything down for him. And he'll say some shit that I didn't even know. Really, really smart guy. So if he's doing something, he researched the living hell out of it. He understands it. I trust it. He's one of the very few people where if he says do something, I'm not going to make him explain it to me.
Gotcha.
I will say cool. I started doing more and more of the red light therapy too, because I was talking to Drew Johnson about it, and we're kind of tech nerds on that side of things. So we're like, oh well, what are we doing technology wise? And we were talking about that. And there's a few recovery places that are actually pretty good in Kentucky by me that have a lot of different options when it comes to red light too. And so I got the hat that, it turns off after 15 minutes. So I do it for 2 cycles during the day while I'm doing cardio or something like that. But then, we have the high pressure red light beds and then also the saunas that have the red light therapy in there. Yeah. Although I did see something interesting that there's some people that are doing it too frequently and they're actually starting to get fatigue from the red light because they're pushing it too much. But I got to imagine they're probably doing an hour a day in those high pressure beds or something ridiculous like that.
There's always going to be a point of diminishing returns or even, a point where it's just too much. That's how our bodies work. Our bodies work off negative feedback loops and things like that. A little bit of sun is great. Too much sun is bad. The right amount of calories is good. Too many calories is bad. You take some PEDs or something, the right amount usually works pretty well. You keep climbing that up, start getting worse side effects. People can't really, vibe with the idea of a sweet spot. They don't like the idea of a sweet spot, especially meatheads in our industry. 1 is good, 2 is great. Let's do 10.
Fair enough. How often do we say the dose is the poison?
Sweet spot is
I think it's
really
because
where
it sounds fun.
people just don't want people want extremes, and they want more now. So they're just not content with like a sweet spot. But usually your answer is going to be the sweet spot. If you take too many drugs, you're going to get more sides than you want. It can compromise your health, and then you're going to stop growing, because you have all kinds of complications and gut issues and different things going on. And people they just want to overdo everything. And usually what it takes is them going too far and paying the price to learn their lesson, rather than just accept the idea that the sweet spot is the right spot.
Yeah. So it's an interesting thing about even like oxidative stress, right? Like there's a sweet spot for oxidative stress, especially when it comes to hypertrophy, inflammation.
There's a sweet spot for everything. Even people who overdo peptides, you're going to end up with certain conditions just from overdoing things. Just because, your body wasn't meant to function at that capacity, right? Or in that way, or it's a little bit too much of one of the systems being affected, but you forget that all systems are interconnected. So it's going to affect other things. And people don't want to think about things like that. They think of every system or every single mechanism in the body as an isolated mechanism. That's not how our bodies work.
Mm-hmm. It's all interconnected. You're absolutely right. I think I spend probably half my time telling people to stop using so many peptides concurrently. Like you're using them for a specific purpose, whether that's healing, whether that's energy, recovery as far as, like anti-aging, things like that. You can't throw everything all together all at once, or otherwise you're going to start getting burnout. You're going to there's bad complications between them, things like that.
Actually, Mike, I had a question. I saw something online. I had in my notes on my alarms to research it, but I haven't researched it yet. I saw somebody that I'm not going to say I really respect, but I don't think is stupid, say something, and then I looked it up a little bit, and it seems to have some type of truth to it, but I don't know the research on it at all. So I'm like blank on this. I'm asking you that if you take BPC every single day, that eventually it doesn't work.
I have seen that.
Have you read anything on that?
So here's the thing on the research with BPC 157, right? And pretty much any of the human studies are in Russian. So fun times translating all of that stuff. Otherwise, it's all in animals at that point. And every single study, too, that has been started by the people that originally formulated it have stopped. And so we don't have conclusive results from any of the human studies on it. So we're extrapolating from animal studies or half-done human studies on it. But yes, I have seen where it did stop repairing at a certain point in time. And then, there's still always the risk too of utilizing it too much. And if you have existing conditions, it can exacerbate them. Like same thing with taking HGH, right? Like if you have cancer, it's going to cause the cancer to grow faster. Similar things with the BPC 157. But I have seen that. It's just interesting, when you're stuck with these half-done studies trying to get the results from it. And, people want to speculate as to why they were stopped and things like that. But there's really not much financial gain for the companies to continue these studies at this point in time either. Because you can't trademark BPC 157 by itself. You can the certain development aspects of it, certain salt forms of it, things like that. You can trademark that. But the molecule itself, you can't at this point. And so there's not too much financial gain for Eli Lilly or Pfizer to restart these trials and things like that. So I think it's maybe a little bit, interesting that the fitness industry is pretty much going to be the guinea pigs on this.
I see a lot of benefit to always taking a break to so many different supplements, medications, and peptides. There's a lot of things that you hear down the line where people end up running into issues or some previously unexpected side effects, and it doesn't happen until years down the line, years down the line sometimes. So I just feel like it's not really surprising in my opinion. I feel like that's always why it's a good idea to try to cycle some of these things. I don't know, but that's just my theory.
I mean, that's the way it is with most things.
Especially since a lot of these long-term.
I was just more, I don't doubt that it happens. I'm just, you know me, I need to know mechanisms. I need to understand exactly how it happens. So I'm wondering,
right,
through which means this is happening, right? Is this some type of resistance? Is something being changed or altered in the body? I'm not, I can't even begin to, form a hypothesis on this. That's why I asked you, because I didn't really look into it at all, but I definitely want to.
Have you ever heard of like narcoleptics who use GHB for a very, very long period of time, like years on end, start getting like this what is this? It's like, they like start seeing things. You ever heard of that?
Taking enough GHB, you're going to see things, right?
It's interesting though, because like, you're friends with Andrew Barry, and I know he has been on BPC for a long period of time, lower dose. I think he's said before somewhere around the 250 microgram, 500 microgram area, but he stays on it for longer periods of time. I believe he had said in some podcasts. So, I think there's definitely been people that have been on it for extended periods of time, years, and seen the recovery benefits of it. But then there's also people on the flip side that I know that have gone 5 milligrams a day on it to repair injuries. Granted, they ran it for 2 weeks at that level, but it helped repair a major injury, a torn muscle, a lot faster after surgery.
Which is crazy because 5 milligrams is a lot every day.
The way I look at it is, if
10 times the average dose.
If there's nothing that significantly needs to be repaired, I don't really see the point in taking it. Because I was taking it orally for a long period of time, and it really made a big difference in my GI issues and things like that. It's a formula. It wasn't just by itself. So there's numerous things that were helping me. Mm-hmm. But once my digestion and my GI was gotten really good shape, and everything was working really well, I came off, and it stayed that way. So like kind of like, what are you trying to fix if nothing's broke type situation? Like we're always going to have our aches and pains and things like that. But then again, I take GH, right? Pharma grade GH. I take that for anti-aging. So, I mean, that's always going to repair you to a higher degree than BPC is, So like, I'll take BPC specifically if I have like a strain or some type of injury, or start having real bad GI issues. I'll take a very high dose of it. I'll take like 1 to 2 milligrams a day, and it'll fix it like really, really fast, and then I'll, that injectable, then I'll move over to the oral, and I'll stay on that for a couple of weeks just to make sure everything goes the way it needs to be going and everything heals up, because obviously we're still putting food in our GI tract and everything. So we're still pounding the area that we have just tried to fix. And typically things, work out well, and then I stop, and then I'm not really have to take anything at that point.
Yeah. What's up, homies? I'm back at my new place now in Vegas, and we just came out with some new shirts for the Transparent merch. None of the basic shit. Now we got some new sick styles, a little bit of a metal and rock inspired, some other shit, and then also a bunch of new colors. So you guys want to check that out on the site? That's www.icons, spelled AYKONS, icons.com/Nile. That'll automatically apply the Nile discount code and get you right to the site where we have the new designs up. And some of the stuff like the cutoff are 380 GSM French terry cotton. So pretty high quality stuff that were helped design by my boy Dion, one of my best friends in the world. This is the guy that he and I went through a lot in life in the last decade as our best friend Ryan passed away. And I'm really happy that I got to do this with him. But anyways, this is out. So if you guys ever need anything or you have any complaints, I'm fucking here. Just let me know. Let's ride this shit out and grab life by the balls, baby. Peace. I know this is going to be super theoretical and anecdote based, but I want to hear y'all's perspectives on Mike's lean towards UGLGH and yours to Pharma GH, because I know you guys are on opposite sides of the spectrum there. I feel like you're the two people that I'd love to hear this like debate on, if there's any.
Well, here's my stance on it. I typically didn't think that there was any difference as far as what we thought in the past. In the past, everybody accepted that generic GH just wasn't Pharma GH, right? It was just not the same drug. They would say things like, "Oh, you just got to double the dose." Like, what other pharmaceutical drug of the generic brand do you double the dose so that it works like the pharma? It either is or is not the drug, right? So, like, they're trying to, it's not as. No, it either is or it is not the drug. It's not like a weaker form of the drug. It either is or it isn't, right? And here's the thing. Everybody always likes to cite, the testing is good and it tests as this, it tests as that. 15 years ago, the tests were still testing good too. Same things you're getting today. Same tests you're getting today. The IGF-1 levels of the tests and all the tests that you're running on today's generics are the same results as the ones we had 15 years ago. So it's not like anything improved or changed. It's still, but a lot of people that I know have said that they think that it may be the same, people that I trust. But again, I don't know, because I have tried to run up to 20 IUs of generic, and that didn't even touch 8 IUs of pharma. Like, it's not the same. And everybody that I know that has made that jump from generic to pharma, everybody, like even Chase Irons was on, I think he said it on this podcast when he quoted me, and he said that like he saw that I had talked about 18 IU and he had the money.
Yes.
And he was skeptical, and he tried it, and he's like, holy shit, like it was definitely not the same drug. I think that people think that if they're the same, or the people that are taking 4 IUs, 3 IUs, because you're not going to see anything significant muscle building at that point. You're not going to be massive water retention. You're not going to have any super accelerated recovery. I don't think you see a difference until you get into the 8 to 10 IU range. Then you're going to see how they really differ.
Do you mind me asking specifically if you can remember what differed between the two whenever you made that switch? Like if you could list it out.
I mean, listen, I remember at one point I got up to 14 IUs, but then I only did it for 2 weeks. And then I had to back it down where I was getting close to showtime. The reason why I did it is because I was working with my buddy Matt Porter at the time. The one time I ever let anybody help me, he helped me for like 6 weeks because like my head was just like screwy at that point. I'm like, I couldn't focus. So no, he's like, listen, I got you. And he was dieting me really hard on low carbs with my metabolism. So like I was like really flat and weak. And I noticed that the GH was just like filling me out and making me stronger. And when I got to 14 IU, I remember just looking at weight and getting a pump. Just like muscles just inflated. Like I can't even explain it to you. Anybody who can afford it, I would tell you to just try it for 4 weeks. If you try it for 4 weeks, you're going to come back and be like, yep, that's different for sure. Like everything just feels fuller, bigger, rounder. I think I even sent you pictures privately where I I was at the peak of it where I look like a gorilla.
But how much of that do you feel like was temporary whenever you came off of that GH?
I don't feel like it was temporary. I feel like it was enhanced proliferation. I feel like there was a lot of water retention that came along with it again. But again, how much water retention could it possibly have been? Because a lot of that water retention is not just from the ADH effect and things like that, but it's from insulin resistance as well. But I wasn't eating any carbs, right? So like I was eating very little carbs. So I theoretically shouldn't have held a lot of water. A lot of the water was intramuscular water. And it was making me stronger. I was recovering really well. I was even sleeping really well close to the show because my GH levels were so high. But it was just significantly different.
Yeah. Yeah. That's cool. I mean, that input makes me, I think that's a good anecdote towards utilizing that GH being good for growth and hypertrophy while you're on it rather than being a lot of people just like to look at like the size gains that they gain.
Another argument is that most of the bigger pros, the open pros, all run pharma, right? And people online, they never they never think about like, oh, we're just smarter than them. They're just stupid. They never thought to try it. Like you think they never thought to try generics and save some money and they're stupid and you're smart. They're the best in the world. Of course they tried it. They saw that it was not the same thing. I did the same thing. I tell a story all the time. When I first started trying pharma grade GH, I was like late 20 or 30 years old, something like that. I was broke. So I was like trying to believe that generics were the same. I wanted with every ounce of my being to believe they were the same. But every single time I switched when I got a little bit of money, it was so different. I just had to accept it. And then when I made the full switch, when I made the full switch is when I shot to national level. So
my, I want to hear Mike's point for sure, but my perspective on it, just as a devil's advocate, is when I see the difference between when pharma and like UGL stuff that I've been taking, IGF-1, gear, etc., the main difference to me is always potency. And that includes both the benefits that I experience from it and also, the side effects that I experience from it. So that's my curiosity, is like how much of this difference in pharma and actual UGL is really just like the potency of it, especially if it's, getting tested.
Well, how would the potency be different? It either is the proper sequence or it's not. Yeah, I mean, that would be like you getting generic.
It could be the binders
not as good as
and the
the
fillers that they use with it. So one of the things that I see with the generics that's a downfall to them is they like to use maltol more in there, which can cause some reactions in folks, whether that's the itchy red welts or holding extra water. It's cheaper, right? So they go a little bit more towards that. I don't think I would ever argue, like, right, there's two different ways to make GH. You have Serostim, which I think we'll all agree is the Ferrari of it, right? That utilizes mouse technology to be able to get the GH. Everyone else, aside from them, uses E. coli to generate the sequence. And that includes China, there's only one brand actually made in the US. Everything else comes from overseas, whether Europe or Asia. But there is only one brand made outside of Indianapolis here in the US. And they all use E. coli on that side. So, I do believe that Serostim is the Ferrari. It's much more expensive and time consuming to make as well, which is why you see like that higher price tag on there. And, even a year ago, I would agree with Phil 100% that, I've had bad side effects with generic, if that's what we want to call the stuff coming from China, HGH. My hands swelled up to like 5 times the size. I couldn't fit my wedding band on my finger on a vacation one time because my hands swelled up so bad. Not great. But there's been 2 companies in China that have been working for the last 6 years to get their certification at European standards. And as of January, they got certified on that level. And if you know anything about the European versus FDA standards, it's actually harder to get European certification than it is FDA. They have higher standards for purity and more rigorous testing than what we require in the US. And they actually got those certifications. Now, it wasn't by accident either that now you start hearing on the marketplace that they aren't selling to the US anymore, because now that they have this certification, they can sell it, let's say they're selling it for $50 a kit or something along those lines, just dirt cheap, right? As a UGL. Well, now that they're certified, okay, now that all of a sudden they can start selling this stuff for $700 a kit, like you get with Serostim and things like that. So they've been focusing now on the European markets and pulled it from the US, which is why some people are saying that the market's drying up on that side. So again, though, this is only 2 companies. They really invested heavily in their technology, certifications, all of that stuff. So you can still get, or at least, until recently, UGL, if you will, HGH that was at European Pharma standards. Now, how much is that still going to be available on the marketplace and things like that? That's yet to be determined, but they came a long way in the last 5 years, I'll say, on that side of things. But there's also now still hundreds of companies that are producing an inferior product, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, listen, I'm very open-minded to the idea that they're eventually going to get it, right? They're eventually going to figure this out. They're eventually going to be able to do it. It's just like you said, it's a very difficult and delicate process. I'm pretty sure that when I made this argument on my social media, and I was actually DM'd by somebody who's actually in the manufacturing process, she didn't want me to specifically name her and she wouldn't come on any podcast because she said she would lose her job. But she basically explained to me why it was nearly impossible that they were making legitimate GH. And that I asked her, I said, would it be possible to manipulate the peptides to test positive like GH? And she said, absolutely. So there's probably 100%. a lot of that going on. And even back when, John Meadows was around, rest in peace, one of my mentors, he believed that it was GH secretagogues with ADH added to try to mimic the side effects. And this would kind of make sense because what people are saying, you just have to use a higher dose to get the same effects, right? Well, if you use a higher dose of, Tessa or IPAM, or use a higher dose of a secretagogue, you're going to get more IGF-1 production to an extent, right? So if you're doing that and then you're getting more side effects because there's a little ADH in there, so now you're retaining all this water. So like it really looks like you're on GH and you're like, this has to be GH. And you do have a IGF-1 because it's a secretagogue. It really is. It's just not GH.
Right. 100%. I'm with you. There's absolutely people that do that on there. I agree with what John Meadows had said at that point in time too. Like you and I think have similar experiences with him. I still have his old emails when he was my coach. John Meadows at chase.com. And yeah, I agree. Like there's absolutely players in the market that are just using those secretagogues, and they'll throw in some other things. I've even seen them throw in a little bit of a diuretic before to try and mimic the Genotropin effect, where you look a little bit drier on the HGH. Yeah. And so, yeah, there's definitely bad players out there that are, making cheap stuff and trying to sell it at a higher price. That's why, you got to know the manufacturing process. Phil, you and I have talked about it too, about the cost on this stuff. Like to make, cheaper HGH.
Another thing that she had mentioned, the cost of the equipment. She's like, I have no idea how they would acquire this equipment, be able to hide this equipment, and be able to afford this equipment. And then she said the hardest part, she said it's such a delicate process. Like you can't just look up online how to make it. Like you need to be trained. Like where would they get these trained individuals to be able to do that now?
Yeah. Because those manufacturing lines, the cheaper ones, you're talking about like $30 million for a manufacturing facility that would be able to make the cheaper generic versions of the HGH. Dude. That's cheap in the manufacturing world.
No small task to make cheap.
I don't know anything. That's crazy.
Versus a Serostim line, you're talking $100 million easily on that to be able to make something like Serostim, which, and that to make Serostim, I don't think many people are aware of this, but one of the old arguments as to why generic HGH was bad was the transport of it, right? They're saying it degraded in transport and things like that. But the reality is it's fairly hardy because Serostim, for example, it started manufacturing in Switzerland, then it's finished in Italy. Then if you're getting it in the US, it's then shipped to Massachusetts, and then it's going to go from Massachusetts to wherever you are located. So it actually is hopping quite a bit along those lines. But nonetheless, that's still two different manufacturing facilities that have invested hundreds of millions of dollars into this stuff. So it's not cheap to make on the proper level, which is why they were investing in getting the European certifications on this stuff so that they can sell it and make that money back.
Mike, if you don't mind me asking, I know it's going to be hard to break down because you have to include like investments, for example, rather than just like, I guess, gross for each, for a certain quantity of this product. But do you have any insight on the difference in manufacturing, say, I don't know, like a decent quality GH versus a GH secretagogue like testosterone?
Oh, that's miles.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you're like, let's say a normal peptide line, you're talking $100,000 to be able to make something like BPC 157, TB 500 like that. I'm not talking about this synthesizing the raw material because that's obviously a lot more expensive. And that's what, I think there's been several podcasts that are like, hey, all of your peptides, if you break it down where it's synthesized, the raw material is coming from China, which is, it's a simplification, but it is fairly true in that most of the people that are synthesizing the true raw powders are in Asia. There's some in Europe, and a lot of nootropics are coming out of Russia, Ukraine, things like that. But the peptide line itself, let's say $100,000 on that side of things, to take the raw material and put it into the vials. And then, then you're looking at another $100,000 a year if you want to get certified by the FDA, if you're shooting for 503B certification or anything like that, because you do have to pay for the inspectors to come to your facility. You have to make sure that you have the proper air conditioning, that it's negative pressure and things like that. But you can rent a lot of that equipment fairly cheap to be able to do that. So let's say another 100,000 on that side versus a HGH line by itself, a cheap one, you're looking at $30 million, a true Serostim, $100 million plus on that side of things.
And
so
then you
it increases exponentially. Yeah, exactly. Then you have to have the qualified people to run those lines and things like that, which is, with APR, that's why we partner with doctors. Like these are, true chemists that have doctorates in chemistry, and we have a lot of different degrees throughout our partners that we work with there, and none of them are cheap because they're very smart individuals. Then you need your engineers to run the line. Then we encapsulate everything in New York, so labor's pretty expensive there on that side of things, but we have a gentleman that is excellent at that, so that's why we partner with them. So yeah, there's a lot of those costs, will add up, but the lines themselves, you can see like regular peptide line versus a HGH line versus a Pharma Serostim line, exponentially more expensive.
Gotcha. Yeah, so I'll be looking, if you're a UGL or underground and you're looking at doing one or the other, which one seems more likely, more lucrative? Look at how long before you actually make your money back if you try to start a legitimate GH lab, or you could try to trick everybody and throw in secretagogues and other things and make a whole bunch of money and still charge, your GH prices, right? So like long time ago, like we were looking at, I think people are really pissed off at me, like, when I actually posted the screenshots off Alibaba, I'm like, listen, you can buy all these boxes off Alibaba for $40. I'm like, you think they can make that for $40? Like, and I'm like, this is what are selling you that box for 200, 300, 400? That's what they're paying. And that people got pissed at me because I guess people were like making a lot of money selling it. Oh boy, people were furious.
Yeah, it's you gotta love the Alibaba ones, but it's a matter of good procurement practice, honestly, because you can buy the pharma quality stuff coming from China or from Hong Kong or from Korea is producing more of it these days as well. You can get that if you have the proper partnerships with the people. Is it more expensive? Sure, but it's not outrageous on those prices. And so, it's all about, we all love testing, right? Like everyone wants everything tested. We start doing all the batch testing and endotoxin testing and heavy metal testing and things like that. But at the end of the day, it's a trust factor too. You have to trust your people that they are buying good raw materials from the right sources. And look, your results are going to speak for themselves. We've had plenty of customers that have come over to APR from other places that are like, I take 1/10 of the dose of your stuff compared to the other ones. Well, yeah, because I have 21 years of manufacturing experience. This is what I live and breathe and have been doing, more than half of my life at this point. And so we have great partnerships with proper procurement channels that are legitimate. We're not, going on Alibaba and getting the raw materials, although our margins would probably be a lot better.
How many peptide companies have we watched go down? How many have we watched get busted? How many have we watched go out of business or get caught with the testing, or they get busted and then the testing shows their shit was garbage? Like I have lost track in the last, was it 5-10 years? How many times that's happened? It just goes to show you how many people are trying to make a quick buck in this industry. And that's why people will search online for a deal, and you're going to get what you pay for, they're not finding some super secret place where they can sell it cheaper than the next guy, the bigger site probably gets the better price, probably has the better connect, so if you're selling cheaper than them, how, why, are you just less greedy? Come on, let's be honest. There's a lot of just people lacking common sense.
Yeah. At some point you get what you pay for on those things. And, it is, you also have to look at who you're getting into business with too, right? As far as buying these things, what's their purpose for being in the market in the first place? Are they just trying to make a quick buck off of whatever is the latest, buzzword kind of thing? Because we see plenty of tech investors in the peptide space these days. These guys are, from Silicon Valley. They just wanted to make a quick buck because that's what they do. They flip companies for a living. You think they know the procurement channels for, the pharmaceuticals? No, but they know how to buy stuff real fast, build a website real quick, some flash and marketing, and often, they're off and running. But if you get other folks that are, there are good players in this industry that want to help people and know the benefits of these things and want to advance research as well. Because we do see several companies, that are investing in research, like actual legitimate research in this space to help move these products along. And, that's a goal that I have. I want more actual studies coming out of universities that are relevant to us in the fitness space, because how many times do they actually do a study that's relevant to growing muscle or to repairing an injury? It's usually, well, I got this really sick overweight person here that I can make a lot of money off of, so I'm just going to study that.
Gotcha. Dom Cardone in our last podcast too, he's a little bit more on Phil's side regarding the GH, and he was saying for him personally, in his experiences, he felt like he had the most results from Genotropin, and then Serostim next, and then obviously UGL was nothing compared to those two for him.
Well,
I know those are anecdotes, but I always find that interesting.
Me and Dom were good friends at the period where he was growing and doing all that. So like we used to text almost every day. And I remember when he was doing that. And I remember when he really started exploding and, really coming into his own, and then jumped right to the national scene and won right away. Like he just transformed, he morphed. Like I watched him do it. So like I can confirm what he said because I literally watched it.
Oh, okay, cool. Well, you guys let me know if you have a plug-in sometime soon. Bulk is coming up soon. I
don't know. I was always on the, I stole some of Meadows' ideas, and he was a Serostim guy. But I'll say that knowing the proper people that have their certifications and things like that, I've had good experiences, and keeping myself healthy and recovering from, at the peak of my strongman career, I couldn't afford Serostim. I'll tell you that, but I knew good players in the industry and things like that. And to Phil's point, like HGH is amazing for longevity, for repair. There's, not much compares to it as far as repairing and things like that. And when you're deadlifting cars or 905 deadlifts and things like that, recovery is paramount. And so, I've had good experiences with the generics as far as recovery and things like that, but it took time to find the proper sources. Because like I said, I also had the experience where I couldn't even fit my wedding band on my finger because I was so swollen and bloated from God knows what they put in there.
See, I want to say one thing for your viewers, just real quick. When we talk about generics versus pharma grade GH, I don't want people to think that if you took generics, that you just got nothing out of it. Like we said, it's probably a secretagogue, so it did do something. Like you definitely felt something. You definitely got results from it. It definitely worked. If it elevated your IGF-1 levels, it worked. It just didn't do what pharma does, but it still works. So I don't want people watching this thinking, oh, it did nothing for me. I wasted all that money. No, it still did do something.
Okay.
Yeah. Cool. And that should probably limit some of the comments, hopefully, in the comments section.
We have a lot of angry comments.
Well, I took this and I know it did something. Well, yeah, it did do something, but did it do it to the maximum possible benefit? Probably not.
Exactly.
Unless you're getting it from a good source.
You're reducing my exposure, brother. I need more comments.
Have we yet?
Whatever.
Have we yet to have somebody come on a podcast and say, you know what? I took 16 IUs of pharma and I took 16 IUs of generic, and they were the same. Have we even heard that yet?
I will say I tried, after Chase Irons, I followed Chase for a while and things like that, and he was, all about the vial a day of Serostim, and I was like, all right, well. I'm tired of being a fat, strong guy. I want to look like a bodybuilder. I'm going to try this too. And I did the vial of Serostim a day. Well, Phil, I never got to your size. I never got to Chase's size. So, it didn't do any miracles for me.
Yeah, but you're significantly stronger than both of us.
All right. So I got decent CNS, but that's about it.
Funny. Yeah, whatever. I forgot. Anyways, the Fit Body Fusion coach that Bianca's under,
Drew Brandon.
Drew. Okay, yeah, Drew. He was mentioning that he was cool with you putting Bianca on the health supplements and your mitochondria cycle for her freshly new pro shows, right? This season, now that she's a pro.
Correct. Yeah, I was told that I'm off the leash.
Nice.
On that, as far as we have some time here in between this last show and her next show, so want to make sure all the labs are coming back as clean as possible and things like that. Especially after he was seeing some of my blood work recently, where I was pushing things pretty hard, and all of my liver enzymes and kidney markers and all of that came back great. So as far as like the health supplement side of things, we're ramping up the life support because it has the glutathione in there, it has the NAC in there, the glutamine, the taurine, all of that good stuff. Obviously utilizing glutathione in general pretty heavily. Then the liver support and the kidney support supplements as well. So taking care of all the organ health, make sure that's all good before we start the next push.
Why would you need clearance?
And then why would we need what?
Why would you need clearance for that?
Well, I don't like stepping on coaches' toes, right? Like I'm a health guy. I'm not a prep coach.
That would be pretty much implied. Like that should be okay, no?
Yes. She was running, these things throughout the prep, but now we're ramping it up more in this time period. But yeah, I
allowed not to take that stuff.
I just never assume when it comes to the coaches, because I don't like to step on anyone's toes or anything like that, because that's not what I specialize in.
I feel like
I'm a longevity health guy.
I feel like a lot of people aren't as knowledgeable too about like the new mitochondrial peptides or any of these protocols though. So he said
he was just talking about
right?
supplements in general right there. If I had a coach that told my clients or anybody I knew that they can't take basic health supplements, I'd just tell them to fire the coach.
Yeah, well, for sure. He's big into those health things anyway on that side of things. But to the mitochondrial support side, this is, after a fairly long prep, right? It's already been 3 shows at this point in time. So need that reset at this point. So what we're utilizing going into this is the FOX04 DRI to clear out the dead and dying mitochondria and cells that are leaking oxidative stress throughout the body.
I don't even know
that for it kills off the dysfunctional cells. So the ones that are just leaking oxidative stress and aren't contributing to a better environment, it helps the body recycle those. So we're going to clear that up. Then we're going to move to the human end to make the ones that are functioning stronger, and then go into SS31 to replicate more of the healthy cells at that point. So clear out the dying cells, build stronger, healthier mitochondria, then replicate.
Renovation
I thought,
exactly.
Does SS31 is that not more for clearing oxidative stress for the of the cells than actually replicating them? Is it something like
it provides multiple functions on that side of things? So it's not just a one-sided tool on that. It does create the biogenesis to create more of the mitochondria. You are right that it does reduce oxidative stress. And the cool thing about it too is that utilizing higher doses of SS31, especially if you're looking at intramuscular before you train a particular muscle, you can actually stop the oxidative stress before it forms. So the lower doses clear up existing oxidative stress. Higher doses, you can actually stop it from forming in the first place. Not only that, but you also recycle the phosphocreatine faster in there. You're producing more ATP in there. So you get a lot of benefits on your workout on that side of things. So not only are you getting the benefit of having more healthy cells and things like that, you're recovering faster. It's just good leading up then into a cut where you might utilize MOTS-c SLU, things like that, to actually then push more of your metabolic functions.
Right. Yeah. I have a friend that's like, she's not into bodybuilding, but she's not too well. She's kind of sick right now. And I think one of her friends got her on MOTS-c or something, and she just felt more fatigued. And I'm like, I really believe that you just have too much oxidative stress in your body, and it's just exacerbating that by literally just being on MOTS-c alone. It'd be better that you focus on having some glutathione in your body, just having a healthier diet, take some NAC, clear out some oxidative stress, maybe even SS31 before even touching the MOTS-c.
Yeah, I mean, MOTS-c, if your car engine's already busted and you're taking MOTS-c, you're flooring the engine. So it's just going to get worse at that point in time. And, I've had other pros too that we utilized that same protocol that I just laid out, where during prep, all of a sudden their metabolism stalled. They weren't sweating, during cardio, temperature regulations were all over the place, things like that. And they just, they were going up to an hour and a half of cardio a day. They reduced down their calories really low. Nothing was stripping the fat off. So, we utilized that protocol. Plus they, pulled back on the training, added a little bit of extra calories for a week or so in there, because this protocol can help speed that process up. And then all of a sudden they're firing on all cylinders again. And we had a gentleman qualify for the Olympia, actually utilizing that because his critique was that he came in a little bit soft and made a little bit of water on his lower back, fixed that up, and now he's qualified. So it worked pretty well during his prep.
I think this is a good general lesson for the listeners in general, for the entire fitness industry, is you want to make sure that you know the current environment before you start speeding things up. Because actually I don't know if you guys saw the Instagram reel I just made like 2 hours ago, where I was talking about, basically GH principles and things like that. And I basically stated that you want to make sure that you don't have cancer or at risk for cancer first, because it will speed that up. So you want to make sure you know what the environment is before you introduce something into the environment that can make it worse. Because if you introduce GH into a situation where you have cancer, it's going to speed up the spread of that cancer. And what's funny is, like when I did the debate last week with Palumbo, and we were talking about fibrilize, for example, I reintroduced that same argument. You want to make sure you're not introducing it into the wrong environment, or you're going to cause problems. And there was two actually points there. When we were talking about gut dysbiosis and SIBO, that if you bring in the soluble fiber, he tried to make the point that it was only going to feed the healthy bacteria. I was like, what did you just say? But if you have
selective,
or you have SIBO or something like that, it's going to make that situation significantly worse. And then he went on to say that he takes it with the last meal and whatnot, but that if you cut water earlier and you reduce water earlier in the night, then you're in a dehydrated state trying to introduce fiber. You can actually clog them up. So you have to know what the state is of the body before you introduce something into the body that's going to affect the body in that, in a relative way, or you can make things significantly worse.
100%.
How did that go, by the way, with Dave?
I think the whole industry saw how that went. I was actually expecting him to.
That was so funny, man. Like I was really busy during that week, so I didn't even know that you guys were going to do it. And then I was in Dragon's Lair, and Milos just comes up to me and he's laughing, and he shows me the phone, and it's you guys on a live stream. And he's like, haha, this is your fault. He just walks up and he's like, this is comical.
It's actually funny because he was on your show, and he goes, in all the history of me doing this, anytime somebody disagrees with me, I challenge them to a debate. And it's never happened. And he follows it up with two evers, ever. And then the very next week decides to challenge me. I accept it. And for everybody who watched it, well, I mean, you know what? The intelligent people that watched it, because some people just can't grasp what was said, because I had to go way over his head with the science and the technicalities and the mechanisms in order to really show that I knew more than him. We weren't doing it for the viewers. It was more like a pissing contest. Like I was showing him that I knew more than him, So I had to go way over his head. And a lot of the viewers couldn't follow it. But the really smart ones, like Mike, I know you were laughing your ass off. So as far as like some of the points that I tried to make, and I cornered him a few times, I set him up for another one. I caught inconsistencies. I caught him contradicting himself. I caught him making claims that are just absolutely not true. He made some major mistakes on some basic biology, physiology. It's just like, really, bro? So I think I made him look pretty damn bad. I actually let him off the hook on the last two topics, because he went to you guys probably saw the video where he's like, I just want to stop and say that you guys know I don't have a problem with you. And I never said anything bad about you, even though he said I was on Met the week before. And he was trying to like disarm me so I wouldn't keep attacking but it kind of worked because somebody's nice or like kind of submits. I can't keep hammering them. So I let him off the hook on the last two, and I really could have got him. But I think that I made my point to him. He hasn't said anything online since. That was a lot of fun for me. But yeah, Niall, your podcast kind of helped kick that off. That's actually really, really funny. He'll never claim somebody won't debate him again.
Well, like content wise though, like what did the mediator basically conclude from this?
The mediator was Drew Donaldson, who's very knowledgeable, very smart person. We both felt that he would do a very good job. And the reason is because we were going to be complex with this, right? We were discussing science and mechanism. So we needed somebody who understood that. A lot of people, a lot of podcasters wanted to be the mediator, the moderator, but they didn't know science well enough to ask the big questions to really, because we would have just been sitting at basic questions, just me and him agreeing with each other left and right. And nobody would have won and there would have been no outcome and it wouldn't have been controversial if they just asked a bunch of basic shit. So we needed people that were really smart, that understood a lot of the material, like asked the right questions. Now people complain that Drew let him talk a little bit too much, which is true. Dave did the vast majority of the talking. Dave talked over me. He wasn't stopped from talking over me, but regardless of that, I had the outcome that I wanted, which I pretty much drilled him into the ground. And he now knows where he stands. I think he got a little cocky. He didn't look me up or any of my material.
Specifically about what, though? Do you remember?
I don't think Drew was staying, neutral as the moderator. No, I don't think he was waving a flag of who won, who lost kind of thing.
I don't think that he played sides. I just think he didn't want to interrupt Dave and Dave kept talking.
Yeah.
I'm more so just curious if there was like a clear conclusion on like, I don't know.
Every single person who understands science and mechanism, especially when we went through the insulin doesn't store. He said it on your podcast, right? Insulin doesn't store fat. Like I absolutely annihilated him on that topic. He didn't even know what HGL and HSL and LPL was. And then he tried to like challenge me. He's like, why don't you explain to the viewers what that is? Because he didn't think I could. Like, you think I would say anything I could explain? So when I drilled him on that, I think he was just ready to quit. I talked to Drew after the podcast a couple of days later. He's like, I thought he was going to log off after that. He's like, I thought he was the lead, but I know what we were going to do because it was like, that was like a really, really bad one. Like, it's embarrassing to try to even say that. And, mechanistically, this is objective. It's not subjective. It's not my opinion versus his. This is literal fact we know, so like I proved that he was just full of shit on that. And, it was really embarrassing for him. And he just wants this thing to go away, which is why he's not talking about it. He didn't mention it on his podcast yesterday, I guess, because he doesn't want anybody to go find this and go look it up. I'm still talking shit because you know what? You talked shit to me. You told me I was beneath you. You said I was in over my head, called me a meth addict, called me crazy, called me nicknames, all this and that. And I whooped your ass. So, you claim to be like the most all-knowing person and you got exposed, and that's just basically how it went. Milos was laughing probably because he's listening to it. And like he had messaged me before. I think we talked a little bit before the podcast. Like, I don't think he likes Dave very much. So he was probably laughing because he probably saw what was happening. Because Milos is really, really smart. So Milos understood everything we were talking about for sure. So when I made my points, Milos was probably just like laughing because Dave's looking like an idiot. And that's just basically the way that it went. And I don't think I was almost wondering if he was like so delusional that he was going to try to challenge me again, which I was going to accept, but I wouldn't be anywhere near as nice a moderator that would give me the time to talk.
Not to go on a tangent. What is HSL and whatever you were waiting earlier? Oh no shit.
So let me make this real simple for your viewers because everybody got mad at me for going over their heads. So let me make this real simple for your viewers.
Yeah, Phil, you might want to use, dumbed down language on this one.
I'll make it simple. So we have different lipases in our body, which are basically enzymes that break down triglycerides into fatty acids so that they can be transported in and out of the bloodstream and throughout the body to be used, right? So we have two that are ones that break down triglycerides that are stored fat, right? And then that will liberate those into the body. Insulin shuts those off. Then we have ones in the bloodstream that break down triglycerides into fatty acids so that they can be stored in our body. Insulin turns that on. So literally turns on the fat storage process, turns off the fat release process. But here's the thing. He tried to say that the body would use the fat for energy and that the glucose would be stored as fat. But he had just previously agreed that Glucose being converted into fat is like a 15-step process. It's a very expensive and difficult process for the body, whereas fat can be readily stored as fat. So, it's like just like trying to get to the store that way or riding completely around the block. Like your body is going to take the shortcut, and not only that, when you have glucose in your system, your body is preferentially using that for fuel. So it's replenishing glycogen, it's replenishing liver glycogen, it's replenishing energy. And then it can be stored as fat if there's any left. But the fat that's floating there can go right into your fat stores. And not only that, you set the mechanisms up exactly for that to happen.
I see, dude. That was actually a very good way of explaining it, to be honest.
Yeah, like I can't.
I feel like it literally like in 30 seconds, you basically concluded.
Bro, I had him. I even asked him twice on. I gave him 2 opportunities. I said, "So insulin has nothing to do with fat storage." He goes, "No." I was like, "Nothing to do with it." He goes, "No." I was like, I let him double down on it. And I was like, "All right, but we have your stance solid here. Let's go."
Okay, gotcha. All right, cool. All right, moving on from that.
Actually, one real funny thing though, Mike, you had to have gotten a kick out of this. But he was talking about this podcast. He was like, we're going to keep this about science and mechanisms. And if you can't explain what you're talking about, then you're going to be exposed for not knowing what you're talking about. And on the podcast, he said, I'm talking about too much science and mechanisms. So that doesn't matter. It's like,
yeah.
What?
I mean, at the end of the day, what was a complaint that you got was that you used too much scientific terms. So
yes,
I'm pretty sure the science was covered.
I talk too much science in a scientific debate.
Okay. I have a question to ask you guys personally. And I have another friend also who just like went through a bicep tear. But for example, I'm not really sure what's going on my knee, but what I assume it is patellar tendonitis. It's just sharp pain every time I flex my leg or I move it or I like do knee flexion in any sort of sense. There's just fucking sharp pain in the kneecap. For things like this, for issues like this, is there a protocol, even if there's like a lot of peptides that we could implement, like what way could somebody possibly speed up the process as fast as possible? I know Dom Kuza explained that like with his pec tear, he used FOXO4 DRI into the pec tear and he was doing push-ups by week 6 or 7 when the physical therapists were surprised because normally they recommend like 3 months in before you do something like that, which is a big difference in time. And then the only other things I can think of, I think, are shit, the basic shit that everybody knows, like BPC and TB for tendons. And is there anything else that you guys would recommend to speed up the healing process for this? And maybe like Pharma GH, I guess.
You can add a million things to try to help speed up recovery, but the key here is leave it alone. A lot of meatheads want to try to work through it, work around it. I don't think I've ever seen somebody get rid of tendonitis by training through it. Like we'll just like my elbow.
Not totally leave it alone though, right? Like you need to do a little physical therapy.
You want a little bit of blood flow into the area to enhance healing and deliver everything that you need to and from for healing and recovery. But you definitely do not want to be placing tension on it and straining it for sure. Like you should, like if your elbow hurts, you shouldn't be pressing heavy for chest. Like literally my protocol for things like this is leave it alone. You know why? Because you're going to heal that much faster when you leave it alone. If you want to bring blood flow to the area, heat it. That'll help. And then it'll deliver all these peptides and all the growth factors, all the recovery means. Pharma grade GH, it's phenomenal for recovery. I've seen amazing things from its use from, people doing things properly. I believe my friend Cornelius Parkin broke his back in a car accident and was taking Pharma grade GH and was deadlifting 600 again in like 6 or 7 months.
How high of a dose is reasonable?
I mean, it's dose dependent. The more you take, the more it's going to work. Listen, Jay Cutler doesn't say this anymore, but Jay did say this at the end of his career. I promise you, he said it. I know a million people he said it to. The more you could take, as much as you can afford. He's like, the more you take, the better it's going to work. This
is funny because we literally just said at the beginning of this podcast that nothing is the more you take, the better it works.
Well, we're talking about extremes now, right? We're talking about the top of bodybuilding. We're talking about healing serious injuries, right? Now, there's always going to be, again, needing a sweet spot, right? Because if there's too much water retention in an area and it's compromising the integrity of the healing, then that's going to compromise your body to heal that area, right? So we've got to be careful with like water retention and things like that. So it's going to depend on what you're trying to heal, where the injury is, what the extent of it is,
Okay.
You know, I guess, you know, I guess you would say that the biomechanical structure of the area, you know, if something's being pulled on, if something is not, you know, if you just had something anchored down, you just had something repaired, you don't want water retention in the area that's going to pull on that. You want to let it heal, right? So enough would help healing. Too much is going to start compromising healing. So you just got to understand what you're talking about and what you're doing, honestly.
Okay. Maybe like a genotropin would be a little bit better since I have a drier, I know, resultant.
I have different theories on that. People think that there's certain GH that has less water retention than others. And Mike, you might know something about this that I don't. But typically what people will always say, and this is uniform across the board, Humatrope holds the least amount of water, Genotropin holds the second least amount of water, and Serostim holds the most. Well, let's think about the doses that they come in. Humatrope comes in 72 IU. So by the time you get to the end of that bottle, it's a lot weaker. Genotropin, 36 IU. It's not going to be significantly weaker by the bottom, by the end. But by the time you're at the end of the bottle, GH has degraded to some extent. Serostim, you mix up 18 IUs. So you're going through that a heck of a lot faster, and then you're mixing up another bottle. So how fresh the bottle is going to play a part in how much potency there is. And how much potency there is going to play a difference in, is going to play a part in how much water you're retaining, right? So that's my theory on this, at least. The smaller the dose, the more frequently you're mixing it, the more potency there's going to be.
Okay. Honestly, we could list out a long list of all the peptides that have helped us. You guys have heard these peptides and these research chems in the podcast maybe a million times. Peptides I've used from APR such as BPC 157 and TP 500 for soft tissue healing, Retatrutide and other GLPs, mitochondrial support such as SS31, MOTS-c, 5-amino-1Q, methylene blue, SLU. There's a bunch of others. Obviously, the list goes on and on. One of my favorite things, though, that I've been utilizing, such as during my last prep, that has allowed my blood work to come basically pristine, aside from slightly elevated liver enzymes at about 60 and 130 1 week after the show. And this is after a leg day because my dumbass doesn't want to skip a training day. These are probably the things that I think are the most important. So this includes like your injectable glutathione, injectable or even just normal NAC, liposoluble glutathione, GI aids such as oral BPC, oral TB, KPV. A lot of these things have probably been very substantial in reducing oxidative stress and keeping all my blood markers down, and thus keeping me as basically healthy as fucking possible that you can be while you're bodybuilding. So I couldn't be more thankful to Mike for literally showing me the ropes and also providing me with all of these things. Even the compounded supplements that he creates for blood pressure and reducing oxidative stress on all your organs, including your cardiovascular system, your liver, and your kidneys. All of these that he creates have been very substantial, honestly. So you can find any of these at his site, aprhealthsolutions.com, and he has offered me a code Nile for you guys to use, which will offer you a 15% discount off of all of that as well. If you guys end up using those and you like him, please let me know. Shoot in a comment, just give me a DM or something, and if you ever have any problems or any questions, I'll be here too. This is a community for me, even though I don't have a fucking Discord because I'm lazy as shit, but I fucking should make one. So love you guys, and keep training hard. Mike, you said there's something about genotropin and ADH?
So yeah, when you look at the different HGHs, right? Like they're all designed for small stature people or AIDS patients, things like that, that are utilizing high doses of these things. You know, to Phil's point, Serostim is meant to be used at 18 IU. It's a vial a day, which is why it comes with sterile water, not BAC water, because it's meant to be used immediately. And so, yeah, exactly. And because of that dose that we're looking at here, I do believe that the different manufacturers do add different things in there to possibly reduce maybe some water retention, because that's an inherent advantage they might have over another brand for a particular patient. An AIDS patient who is already on a bunch of drugs that are making them hold water because they're on those other drugs, you might want to utilize a different brand of HGH that's quote unquote drier, because you don't want them holding extra water, putting more pressure on certain organs and things like that. There are mixes. Sorry, what did you say, Phil?
Wouldn't that have to be legally disclosed though?
Yeah, but you can see that in the different ingredients that they utilize for binders, fillers, things like that in there. I'm not saying that they're adding, HCZ or, a strong diuretic like that or anything in there, but different makeup of the maltol versus the other ones that you can utilize, or any of those other ingredients in there. They have the ability to play with how much water someone might have based on just reactions that we know occur to those chemicals. So I do think some can play with those mixes to benefit maybe a drier response, just to have an advantage, right? Like they're all trying to have an advantage over their competitors in this space. And so that just might be one way that they can utilize that.
That would make sense.
As far as the recovery aspect, yeah, I agree with Phil. Don't utilize the injury as much and things like that. But whatever, I'm the drug guy, right? So there's Anavar. I know a lot of people, especially powerlifters, things like that, and torn rotator cuffs that have the surgery.
I love
Anavar. Optimize HP.
I actually forgot to say that. I have clients that
Anavar every meal.
Anavar on hand for contest prep in case they get little tweaks and injuries, because Anavar will heal that shit up real fast. I forgot about that.
I'm so fucking happy. It's almost like I have some in my fridge.
Oh, that's a great one. That's a great one.
Okay,
Cool.
I'll take that as a compliment for Phil. Yes, he said that's a great one. So
no, it is. I forgot to mention it.
So that's something that I've seen and I've utilized with good success. Before my first pro-am strongman competition, I got rear-ended in Miami, actually, by a lady that wasn't paying attention. It was some lady, she wasn't paying attention. The best part of this was she said, I threw my car into reverse and hit her. The cop did not believe her in the least bit. She got a reckless driving ticket on that, but it jacked my back up. And I was like 2-3 weeks out from not only my first Pro-Am competition, but my wedding was the next week. And I couldn't walk. And so I was like, I'm doubly screwed here. So I did HGH, Anavar was in there, BPC was in there, of course. Then I was utilizing cryotherapy to reduce down some of the inflammation that I had in my lower back, which I do believe helps speed up the recovery on that side. I did utilize both hot and cold therapy on that, but the cryo definitely got rid of inflammation pretty quickly on that side of things. And then finally, we did some of the electrostimulus on the lower back too, to help loosen up some of the muscles that were pulled when I jerked back on that side of things. So it ended up working out pretty well. Didn't win the competition, but hey, I got fifth place.
I think we should touch on a good point here. When you talked about the cryo, a lot of people like to think in absolutes and just they don't separate things from scenarios. So when you said cryo, you basically mentioned you had an injury and that cryo helped you. So I think it's important that we clearly clarify for the viewers, just like I mentioned with the GH with the water retention, compromising the ability of something to heal. The reason why cryo helped him is because all of that inflammation was basically causing everything to swell and basically being pulled apart and not being able to basically fuse and heal back together. It was compromising the integrity of the structure. So he didn't ice it and get rid of ice it or cryo and get rid of the inflammation, because that's actually a way to heal the area. What he did was he was removing something that was hindering healing, because typically ice is going to, in reducing inflammation in general, is going to shut down your recovery signal. It's not typically something you want to do unless you're in his situation where it's compromising the ability of everything to heal together.
That is an awesome point, because how many times do we see people utilizing the
everybody's going to hear cryo and then they're like, oh, he said this is going to heal everything. No.
Or the people that jump into the cold plunge.
Oh my God, those
wonder
people.
Why their muscle growth is starting to get limited on that side of things, because they do it right after training. It's like, no, you need some of that inflammation to encourage the muscle growth.
I got asked on a podcast, on this. I'm like, that's not an opinion. This is objective.
I still need to ice my knee, right? For patellar tendonitis.
It depends if it's pulling on it or not. If the inflammation is compromising the healing, then ice it. If it's not compromising the healing, leave it alone and don't take any anti-inflammatories, or you're going to heal it slower.
That's the problem. Is I don't know. Like the inflammation doesn't seem serious, but the pain is.
Can you bend it? Can you move it? Or
I don't feel like there's much inflammation at all.
Then absolutely.
Like,
I would agree with Phil on this one because
the audio didn't come through. What did you say?
Absolutely.
You're saying don't ice it.
Don't ice it and don't take any anti-inflammatories. If it's not compromising the integrity of it, leave it alone. Those signals are helping you.
Like, okay. Yeah, it's just in pain. I don't feel like there's any inflammation.
Suck it up.
But I mean, that's what I've been doing, honestly.
I feel like you iced it last night, right? And then this morning you were feeling like it was more stiff.
Yeah, this morning it hurt. Right? This morning it hurt more. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, compromising the healing.
But then again, we also tried to do legs yesterday. So
I mean, I'm telling you this, and I woke up in screaming pain
exactly
in the
what
middle
Phil
of
was
the night
telling
with
me.
my knee.
Yeah, I'm one of those guys. I can't. It's hard for me to stop lifting, man. It's fucking just.
That's the hardest thing for any competitor to do is back off.
It's so fucking annoying, man. I hate it.
Yeah, he says his knee's hurting, and then on the V squat machine, he literally maxed the machine out yesterday for like a set of 12.
All right, you were supportive, brother.
I was encouraging it. I'm not gonna lie.
We've all done meathead things. Nobody is immune to this.
Is there anything else? Is there any other peptides you guys or you, Mike, would add on top that might potentially actually be helpful that you didn't add before? Like, for example, the Fox. Your answers
as far as healing is concerned, look, copper, because that helps on the collagen side of things, which, depending on what the injury is, can speed that up.
Talking about HGH,
potentially compound on if you're using Anavar, maybe.
Or the HGH, it's the same principle there too. That they're all assisting in that area. The only thing I caution against is I see a lot of people way overdoing the copper, and that can throw your minerals out of balance. It can cause, what they call the copper uglies that first two, which is it's going to mess up your face instead of improve it. There's just a lot of crazy influencer protocols on there. And you want to keep that on the lower side of things than some of these not very smart people trying to run 20 milligrams a day of it.
Okay. Gotcha. Cool. What about utilizing SLU? Now that we have like the whole mitochondrial cycle and mitochondrial reset protocol, when you want to start using things like MOTS-c and SLU, how does that look, and how can you utilize high dose flow?
Mike, I want to ask a question. What do you think?
Well, I think that's after you get into a better spot. Sorry, Phil. I know you're an expert too on the higher dose.
No. I want to ask you a question.
SLU. Sure.
I wanted to see what you think gives more of an acute boost in endurance, Cardarine or SLU?
Ooh, that's a good one.
That's a good question.
Dude,
I'm actually trying to go with. I don't know though. Like,
that's a good one, right?
I do like Cardarine for endurance. Like, if we're talking endurance,
same day.
Yeah, like same day. I'm going to go with like Cardarine on that one versus SLU.
You're going to high
methylene blue too on that. Like Cardarine with methylene blue. Not great for pumps or anything like that, but for endurance, that's a great stack.
Bro, right, I was taking methylene blue and Cardarine pre-workout, and then I was using, I think, Burn HT, which is very mild, stimulant fat burner with adaptogens and things like that from HT, because I don't like too much amping me up for my workout. And then I think I take like a gram of kratom leaf so that my stomach can settle from my Rice Krispie treats. So like I'm not really using a lot of anything. And I remember texting everybody, I'm like, guys, I can't get my heart rate over 130 no matter what I do. I'm like, I am literally like doing all out sets, and I'm not even huffing and puffing between sets. I'm sitting here breathing calm like I just woke up.
Have you tried AICAR, the peptide? I'm not talking about acetyl L-carnitine here, but AICAR.
Actually, I think you sent it to me. I don't think I tried it. I think it might be in my cabinet.
That with the Cardarine your heart rate's not getting over 120 on that one, and you'll be able to go.
Now you're making me want to try it.
Hours on. It's phenomenal. We've had amazing success with that, with military folks, with professional cyclists. Their endurance is through the roof. We had guys going on rock runs like it was nothing. They said they utilized AICAR and dihexa, actually, which for the nootropic benefit, for the focus, and then the enhanced endurance. And they said it was a game changer for their training for missions. For the viewers here, we're not talking about building up your endurance long term. We're talking about literally taking it today and then your endurance being through the app. Like, I'm not talking about I think I feel a little more endurance. I'm talking about your endurance like you've been running 20 miles every day for 3 months type endurance. Like from 0 to 100, like one dose, you go to the gym and it's like, holy shit, like I just can't get tired. Yeah, you're even in, maybe some strength athletes or, people on prep or something like that are utilizing some Tren that are normally huffing and puffing and feel like they want to fall off the Stairmaster. It pretty much cancels that out in my experience. Everybody, there's going to be a run on the shelves now of these products. Yeah, especially given the time of year that we're in. We're going to all walk into the gym. We're going to all walk into our gyms next week, and everybody's going to be in there like going bonkers. We don't mean we don't mean stimulants, guys. We don't mean giving you energy. We mean not getting tired. Yeah, better oxygen usage and things like that. Where you're not gassing out on your cardio. Your heart rate isn't hitting 180 while you're on a 12% incline on the treadmill or something like that. I mean, shoot, I was trying to get my heart rate to 120 and I had it at 15 at 4 miles per hour. I'm like, okay, I'm not the best shape guy here, but I'm still sitting here at 100. I was running circuits. I was doing like dips, curls, lateral raises, V-ups, like in a row, like over and over. I'm pouring sweat. I'm like checking my heart rate. I'm like, I can't get over 130.
Do you guys feel like there could be some problems that someone runs into if they use this at the end of prep, uses these?
Off the top of my head, not that I can think of. If anything, it might raise your anaerobic threshold so high that you're so efficient with oxygen that you burn less body fat. But I mean, how big of how much of an effect would that require for you to not actually be able to burn body fat? Because I was still sweating, right? Which means there was heat production going on. So I really don't think there's any mechanisms that I can think of where that would occur.
Mm-hmm. Mm. Yeah, and given that we're talking about utilizing a stack here too, which allows you to use lower doses of each individual compound, you're not going to run into the issues of where Cardarine you see cancer or something like that, where it's at a much higher dose, or methylene blue where you're running at super high dose and you risk the serotonin syndrome. Or anything like that, because utilizing both, you're at a very low level of both of them, and it's well below the threshold of either of those two issues that I just brought up.
Absolutely, 100%.
Cool. Okay. What about SLU 5-amino-1-MQ and MOTS-c? You were referring earlier to utilizing high dose SLU. I know a few people run into issues with that, but did you, Mike, before mention that there was like some supports that someone could utilize in order to implement that?
Yeah. So, Phil, I know you have experience on the higher dose side of that thing too. I've seen everywhere from 100 milligrams to 500 milligrams, since someone runs 600. But at those higher doses, yes, it becomes very effective at fat loss and things like that. But you also do run into the risk of, I will say, mitochondrial burnout, just for layman's terms. That's not a scientific term by any stretch of the imagination. It's too much oxidative stress, things like that, that's actually occurring on there. And sorry, what was that, Phil?
I said, as long as it paints a clear picture for them. Listen, I've often in the past said things that paint the picture properly, but aren't necessarily true. Like how we just went through HSL and HGH, all those lipases. I just said insulin is a shuttling hormone. It's not. It's actually a key. and it activates your GLUT4 transporters, but I don't want to go through that whole explanation. So, I give them the simple one that they're going to get. Right. I think that if they get the idea, it's fine.
Right. Okay. Yeah. I just know someone's going to call out and be like, well, that's not a scientific term. Like, yes, it is not.
Somebody will.
Broderick's not on this podcast right now, so I think he'll be
he would have a fit.
Yeah, for sure. You'd tear me apart. But yeah, so at those higher doses, very effective, at stripping the fat off, to Phil's earlier point too, at endurance and things like that. But you do need to have your support system in place when you're running high doses, because you will start, look, if you're feeling fatigue, if you're sweating just sitting there, these aren't things that you're supposed to be doing on that. That's a sign of stress that you're under, and you need to make sure that you have your antioxidants in place, whether that can also be QQ, it can be CoQ10. A lot of these things, I built Mito armor specifically to help out when you're running MOTS-c, when you're running SLU, things like that, because I kept seeing people run into, they're just running into a brick wall, and all of a sudden fat loss stopped. They are feeling terrible all the time. And again, I'm not advocating that you run this super high doses indefinitely or things like that. But if you're going to do something like that, you need to make sure that you have your support system in place, and that you do it intelligently and you're listening to your body too. For me, I couldn't run 400 milligrams like the Gorilla Chemist was or anything like that because I was hitting it. So I actually had to wave load it. And so I'd do 100 one day, 200 the next, 300, 400, then go back down to 100. And that allowed me to stay below the threshold, but also strip body fat off really quickly. So you have to make sure that you're listening to your body and you have your support system in place on this.
Well,
I know you have experience.
There's a pretty good analogy for the viewers on this one. So every once in a while, you're going to bang your car up to 100, 120, racing on the parkway and whatnot. That's okay. But you don't want to do it all day, every day, because what's going to happen? You're going to blow that engine out. So basically what he's saying is, if you're going to push it to that extent, you can't do it very long, because what's going to happen is you're going to break the engine.
Mm-hmm. Okay. When would you guys implement MOTS-c? Morning or night?
Morning for me is, because I like just hitting the MOTS-c with the 5-amino 1-MQ early in the morning for me. But that's just my preference on that one.
I don't typically use MOTS-c with clients simply because I try to minimize variables as much as I can, especially in prep. And there's so many things that we add already. My clients are on 15 health supplements. They're on so many different PEDs and fat burner and AIs and all these other things. I don't want to add more drugs if I don't have to, So I understand that it'll help a little bit, but I'm not a kitchen sink method guy. I'm not going to throw in every single thing I can think of that's going to do a little bit of something. I think MOTS-c would be more so for somebody who's a lifestyle person, somebody who doesn't want to use clenbuterol, which is hard on the heart, right? For somebody who wants to know more safer fat burning effects without actually messing with your beta receptors, your cardiovascular system and things like that. Something's a little more, it's definitely better for your health than clenbuterol, for sure. So I think it's got its place, but at the top level of competing, it's not enough bang for its buck for me.
I agree with that 100% because that's actually why I utilize it. I'm not competing right now. So if I'm going to go into a cut or something like that, I don't want to utilize Clen. I don't want to utilize T3 and things like that.
I would never use Clen again. I would use the MOTS-c if I was doing it.
Yeah, exactly. It's the risk to reward benefit. If I'm not going to step on stage, I'm monitoring my resting heart rate, and I want to keep that down as much as possible. You're not going to see that climb up on a MOTS-c or a SLU or, things like that. So yeah, agree with Phil on there.
Or Mirabegron. Mirabegron's kind of nice.
So interesting point on that one is that I have used it with success, the Mirabegron. Funny enough, my wife had complications from having our daughter, and so she was prescribed it. So we actually had a ton of it sitting at the house. And I think it was originally Bigger Steve that was talking about it. I was like, oh, the bladder medication. I got like 10 boxes of this stuff right here. I might as well give it a go. And 50, 100, okay. I was seeing some benefits at the 100 side of it. He said 150. You got to be careful once you start going up that high, though, because it does relax the bladder, right? And for me, especially with my old career, I was on a lot of very long distance flights. Well, if you're taking 150 milligrams of Mirabegron, which is well above the dose that they give for bladder control and things like that, you may relax your bladder too much, and you aren't really conscious of that. You need to keep flushing that out. Otherwise, bacteria can grow in there. And I actually got a UTI from long flights and not using the bathroom enough because I was on too much Mirabegron. So it's just something that even men need to be aware of, that if you're utilizing that, you got to make sure that you're flushing those toxins out on a regular basis. Otherwise, it's not very pleasant, especially when you're trying to go on 16-hour flights.
Gotcha. Isn't there a benefit to utilizing MOTS-c at night, though, separate from in the morning?
To me, as someone that doesn't always sleep that much or that great, anything that could cause an increase, in energy expenditure and things like that, I like to leave off because I already have issues falling asleep. So,
I mean, why would you introduce a fat burner at its peak at the time when your metabolic rate is slowest?
I think there's a lot of there's clinics and other people that implement it at nighttime.
There are a lot of people that don't know what they're talking about in our industry
your body's overnight metabolic, and well, that's why I'm asking.
We got to remember a lot of the people that are
metabolic and
in this industry,
mitochondrial repair demands.
A lot of people that are in this industry are self-proclaimed, right? Like a lot of them just built their own popularity because they got in a video one day and started talking. They had no credentials from the past. They had no accomplishments. They had no success in anything related to the field. They just popped up one day and started talking, and people felt like they sounded like they knew what they were talking about. And then they became popular, and then they built the following, and the following is what really made people think that they have credibility. But if we look back, where did that credibility start? Like, where did it come from? They're just self-proclaimed. Just because somebody's popular, just because somebody can throw a bunch of scientific jargon around and refer to some mechanisms and research.
Yeah. I don't think that's totally related to this though right now. I mean, I do think that.
Well, what I'm saying is, you said that some people,
if you do it at nighttime,
and I think that it makes no sense to implement it that way.
I think there's a trade-off. Like if you do it at night, then it can support your mitochondrial repair processes while you're asleep, and your metabolic expands while you're asleep. But the trade-off is the restlessness.
I think the logic was similar to taking your HGH at night, right? Like you're going into a repair state, if you will. And also, but we also know that some people that take their HGH at night pop awake in the middle of the night too, because of the fat loss that's occurring because you're starting, to promote some of that, and then they wake up in the middle of the night as a result. So it doesn't happen in everyone. No.
If you're on a diet and you're, really lean and you're waking up in the middle of the night, that's usually going to be due to cortisol. That's not going to really have much to do with HGH, So I think the earlier point that you made about anything that's going to, increase energy production or expenditure to some degree is going to affect the autonomic nervous system, which is going to make it harder for you to get into REM, which is going to be, arguably more important than anything you do throughout the day is get good sleep, right? That's going to be your most important thing that you do throughout the day of anything. And to do anything that could potentially disrupt that, in my opinion, even if it has some benefits, is not worth it. You guys freeze on me?
I'm very curious. No, I'm just thinking right now about how. So I don't know. I'm thinking right now and contemplating. I agree that whenever someone's waking up in the middle of the night, it's a lot more cortisol related, right? Like and potentially blood sugar related, right? Because cortisol and blood sugar kind of have
low blood sugar would cause you to dump cortisol, which is what's going to make your body release.
Will cause you to pulse more cortisol in order for you to release more glucose into the bloodstream.
Yep,
so you're not fucking like basically dying, right? And which I think I'm one of those people that probably has that issue pretty often. I'm always waking up in the middle of the night. But I also have experience where I use GH and it's harder for me to sleep in general. So I'm still curious why that reason is.
Was that always a period of dieting?
What's up?
Was that always in a period of dieting?
No, it just kind of seems whenever, honestly.
Because there wouldn't be any mechanisms through which that would happen unless you consider the elevation in IGF-1 that could lower your blood glucose and then cause that cortisol spike.
Yeah, I don't know. I'll bring this up more with more people because I know there's coaches that I've seen some clients that for some reason don't feel like they get as good sleep when they do take GH, but I don't know. I think it's a very small percentage.
Yeah, it's definitely the minority. And I'm blanking on the gentleman's name, the dude from the UK that had talked about it before, that it was similar to what Phil was saying, though. It was like the lipolysis was kicking in, then your body dumps the glucose, sorry, the AC just kicked on, and that created the cortisol spike, which would wake some people up in the middle of the night. But yeah, it was like a smaller percentage. Shoot, I'm blanking on that gentleman's name.
I mean, we get our biggest pulse of GH and our deepest point of sleep into REM, right?
Yeah.
So your body is typically recognizing high GH at a time when it's time to sleep. And this is why you have a lot of competitors that run high GH can fall asleep at any point in the day. So typically GH is something that more GH will make you sleep, not wake you up. That would be completely contradictory to the mechanism. So if you want to bring somebody on who doesn't agree, I'll debate them. We can have some fun.
Phil, it sounds like you haven't ever heard anyone not be able to sleep when they take GH.
It just mechanistically doesn't make much sense. And if that does happen, it would have to be due to, see, I always operate off of first principles, right? So basically I take known mechanisms in the body and then I can engineer a situation. I don't have to be exact. I can get close and usually figure things out. So if we're looking at the way that this works and the way that it works in the system, the only way that it can potentially wake you up would be the IGF-1 levels elevating, lowering your blood glucose, and then causing that dump. That would be the only way that could wake you up. And that would have to be in a dietary process or in a process where you didn't eat carbs before bed or in a process where you burned through all the carbs while you were sleeping. But GH itself doesn't have mechanisms that can wake you up. Not that I know of. Maybe I'm wrong.
I see. No, but your explanation for in a dieted state makes sense.
I always hated splitting up my HGH doses too, because if I took it in the morning, by noon, I would be like falling asleep. And that was not very conducive to a job where you have to be at a corporate office and you're all of a sudden doing the head bobs at your desk.
100%. Yeah. That's me.
Mike, what was your input on 5-amino 1MQ and your suggestions on oral versus other forms? Yeah,
so that has been a fun topic, I think, recently. So, right, like there's 3 common versions of 5-amino 1MQ that we run across. So there's the oral version of it. Then we have what people refer to as the amino version of it, which is generally the pre-mixed solutions that you see of it. And then there's the powdered version of it that you have to add your BAC water to. And I listed those 3 in that specific order because in my personal experience, and there's no real scientific studies done on this, but we do know obviously that oral is going to be the least bioavailable version of that.
I was just going to add that.
Yeah, exactly. So to me, in the order, it's 100 milligrams of oral equals about 50 milligrams of the amino version of it, which equals about 5 milligrams of the powdered lipolyzed version of it. And I've seen people confound all those things where they were I've seen one gentleman that was trying to take 50 milligrams of the powdered version of it. And I was like, absolutely not. That is way too much. And the pip on that is going to be horrific. Have fun with that one. So, I mean, that's kind of the order. And you can debate like, okay, well, the amino version should be as powerful, as the lyophilized version of it. But it's sitting in solution for long periods of time. So it's going to not be as fresh. It's not going to be as potent as we discussed earlier in the podcast. So to me, it's 155 is generally what I've seen with myself, with other athletes and things like that, as far as, equivalent doses on that.
Okay, cool. Famino was one of my favorite things to use at the end of prep. Last prep, I gotta say. I feel like it was pretty substantial and at least making me not feel like I could still be a kind of normal person and still like talk to people when I had to, when they would come up at the gym or something.
Did you also see that you weren't losing as much muscle as you were stripping the fat off? Because that is one of the purported benefits of it, is that you can retain more muscle on it.
That wasn't really easy for me to make a distinction between last preps because there's just so many different variables. But Patrick Tor did send me pictures before and after of us starting prep and us after, and he was like, which muscles look like they like grew bigger or like stayed the same, and basically it looks like we basically maintained everything. So that was pretty cool. Yeah. How much was that? Was 5 amino, and then also just like all the fucking gear I was running, but what's up?
You have pretty good genetics for muscle though, right? Like you grow pretty easily. Like you've got a really good physique.
No, I think I have great insertions and I have a great shape, but especially like looking at my family and stuff and my genetics and also how long it's taken me to get here. Like I really didn't gain anything in stage weight last year with Patrick, which I don't think is his fault. I think it's just I don't know, there's multiple variables. Gaining muscle for me, I think, isn't really I don't know, it's not really where I excel.
I mean, you have good quads these days, just specifically looking at one part of your leg. But
Yeah,
I know you really hammered those for a period of time to bring them up. Like that was a focus for you, right?
That was the entire focus, for sure. Yeah, everything was focused on that. So it's cool to see those results. I'd say I'm trying to think of some things. Honestly, I would say like one of the places that I feel like I wish I did in my last offseason with Patrick was us coming off more often. We really didn't come off, and then by the time that we were planning to, I think I didn't say anything, which I should have, and he was really busy with, I think, like maybe it was like Olympia preps and stuff. So we didn't end up coming off before. I don't know. I think we wanted to come off before prep started, and we did. So I basically ran gear for felt like almost 2 years straight, or maybe it was like a year and a half. But either way, I shouldn't be running gear that even close to that long. In my opinion,
our doses were never huge.
What's up?
Was there like a cruise in there?
That's what I'm saying. There was no cruises.
Oh,
That's where I feel like we went wrong, is that I should have a cruise whenever I feel like my tolerance to the drugs is just not good anymore. I'm starting to hit plateaus, and food is not fixing the problem. Recovery is not fixing the problem. Then I should just fucking come off. And that's what I'm doing this year. And I think it's helping a lot.
I think cruising is very important because every time I pull somebody down, so I will run 12 to 16 week bulk cycles. And towards the end, you can always see like their effort's still there, but the returns are starting to diminish. And then when you put them on a cruise and then you put them back, all of a sudden responsive again. So I see cruises as extremely beneficial, health-wise and response-wise.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I really don't think it was and it's not a Patrick problem. I want to like reinstate that. It was more of like an us thing. We kind of just, I think there was just like a lot going on, and we weren't paying close enough attention.
There's a lot of guys that don't come off for many, many years.
Yeah, I just don't think that helps in any
super
state.
hard when I was working with Phil there, and he tells me to go on a cruise. It's like, damn it.
Shit. When I was working with Gaspari, he told me one time that he didn't come off for 10 years.
Damn, what? That's great. Well, I mean, you sure he didn't mean just like off?
Well, that I don't know if he meant. I don't think cruises was like a thing back then. I think you just came on and you went off, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't think
I don't think it was.
So when he said on for 10 years, like I remember that stood out to me. Like he said that to me. I could tell you where I was sitting when he said it. I remember hearing it. I was like, oh.
Yeah, right. What are some
nootropics?
nootropics
That makes sense because I know several people that had worked with him, and they pushed it. They're like, yeah, to your point, Phil, cruising really wasn't a thing 15 years ago. I mean, I used to train and work with Mark Aldisi and, some of those Gaspari athletes, Ava Cohen and things like that down there in South Florida. And I don't think that ever came up in conversation.
I don't know how true this is. Maybe you can confirm or deny it, because I didn't know the guy. And apparently you did, but I was told that he was on 4 to 5 brands when he won USA, but he was working with Hani.
Mark?
Yeah.
I believe it. He was.
I was told by somebody who worked with. I was told by somebody who worked with him.
Yeah. I will say though that the place he was getting his gear was not the best. So that 4 grams might have actually been 2.
Gotcha. What nootropics do you guys implement? And I remember, Mike, you mentioned to me one time about Tren and amyloid toxicity.
Yeah, so there's a newer nootropic that's been coming out of Japan called FGL. And while it is not designed to, let's say, get rid of the amyloid plaque buildup that can occur, it can prevent it from happening. And no, I'm not claiming that it can fully prevent it, and you can blast all the Tren in the world that you want, or the 19 NORs and things like that. But it will definitely substantially, based on human studies that we have actually on this one, substantially reduce the amount and risk and toxicity of that buildup while you're running certain compounds. And so that's one that I've personally tried. I really liked it as far as, especially as some strength athletes push some of those compounds, you can generally feel yourself getting a little dumber by the end of it, right? And that's with the toxicity buildup and things like that that's happening. And obviously we want to prevent that plaque buildup, because that's what's going to cause Alzheimer's and, those issues down the road. So that's one that I've been getting more excited about and that I've been personally implementing, given my strength background and things like that. So, good experience on that side. Then, I love nootropics, like, coming from an intelligence background and things like that. The Russians were always ahead of us in this space. And so, bromotain is another one that I really like, because not only does it have nootropic benefits, it also has the synthetic adaptogen benefits of it too. So it helps your body handle stress better. And it can also help your body regulate temperature. So for anyone that's training in the gyms that aren't air conditioned in the middle of the summer, I know for me, like, man, I would like feel like I needed to pass out half the time on those. But if I utilize the bromotain before that, I do a lot better in those hot environments. Handling the training and things like that. I can actually survive in a gym that's a metal box that's not air conditioned in South Florida or, here in Texas right now. So, and then the last one would be Restam. So that combined with the bromotain pre-workout for me. Oh, we lost Phil. But anyway, the bromotain and the oxyrestam combination for me is great, because not only are you getting the nootropic benefit, like the increased dopamine from the bromotain, the adaptogen benefits there, but then the restam that you're adding in is helping with your hand-eye coordination, the muscle contractions, and things like that. So it's a really 2-for-1 benefit that you're getting at that combination. So that's my favorite combo of all time right now. There he is. I will say your picture's clearer now.
No, I was about to say that shit too. What about Atomax?
Yeah, so better version of C-Max enhances endurance capabilities along with nootropic benefits on that side of things. So
how is it just like a better version of C-Max?
I would say a more advanced version, because you're not going to get any enhanced endurance out of C-Max that you can see with Atomax. To me, that's the biggest difference between the two. And neither one am I getting super focused or anything like that. I do feel they both benefit from general concentration, maybe a little bit of a mood boost and things like that too, especially as you're getting into prep and things like that. But with the Atomax and the endurance, benefits out of there too. That's, I think, the key benefit over just C-Max for that one.
Okay. And you have that with a dehexa spray now, right?
I do. So make the nasal spray with the dihexa added in there, because that's going to give you the concentration benefits in there. So, endurance athletes or anything like that, you're getting a 2-for-1 combo on that side of things, where you're getting the concentration benefit, endurance benefit. It's going to help you, and even just if you're trying to focus and things like that. Again, dihexa, though, super powerful. I don't want to tell anyone they should be utilizing that on a daily basis, long-term basis, things like that. Is the most powerful nootropic that we have available. So, use with caution, do your own research on that before you utilize it, things like that. But it is a great tool in certain situations, I'll say. And, you mentioned the nasal spray. Nootropics, great for the nasal sprays, but we're starting to see some companies put everything into a nasal spray right now. But, the effectiveness is limited based on the molecular weight of the compounds. And there are a lot of compounds that are completely ineffective in a nasal spray form. The maximum weight that you're looking at is, for most efficiency, it's 400 DA is what you're looking at. Possibly up to 1500 is, pushing it, but you can still get some good effectiveness out of there. If you look at something like Retatrutide, Reta, as everyone calls it, that's 4,500. That's not permeating your nose. So a nasal spray with that, I've actually looked at some research done on that. It's less than 1% in most cases. So maximum 1%. So not very useful. So I will say, and there's other compounds like BPC 157. That's fine through a nasal spray. But if you try to add TB 500 to it, which is 3 times the weight, utterly useless on that side of things. So, just generally nootropics, good with the nasal spray. Outside of that, you start getting into, it's just a marketing pitch more than an effective tool.
What about like sleep peptides like Pineolon and DSIP?
Yep, those are DSIP is in the good space. Other ones that you're looking into in some of those are in the medium space, but acceptable on most of those sleep benefit ones, I'll say.
Huh. Interesting.
Yeah, I've just seen some people trying to add GLPs as nasal sprays. It's like, no, that's just a marketing gimmick. TB500, like I said, not useful in the nasal spray. People are copper, theoretically. GHKC could be, if you don't mind having a blue nose.
What about the fertility protocols? Most people fuck up HMG, no?
Correct. Yeah. Phil and I have talked about this before, and I see most people underdosing the HMG on that side, most likely trying to be cost conscious. But if you're trying for a baby, a fertility claim's going to cost you a lot more in peptides. And this is something, honestly, I struggled with to be able to have my daughter. And so I had to utilize my own protocol. And that's, partially how I came about it. And so HCG, at 1,000 micrograms 5 times a week for me is what it took. And HMG 75 IU, I think I did go up to 5 times a week on that as well, because I just took it with the HCG. is what brought everything back for me. And that was after a decade of, anabolic use. But I was able to get everything back in range after 2 different fertility clinics, I will say, there in South Florida. Told me I would never have a baby, so suck it. I didn't have to pay your $50,000 at a protocol that you're going to have me do. So yeah, and this so far this year, utilizing that protocol, so the 1,000, working up to 1,000 micrograms of HCG and 75 IU 5 times a week. Of the HMG, I've helped 6 people conceive. So super happy about that. That everyone always gets excited when they're about to have a baby and things like that. So super happy for all of them on that side of things. But that's what awesome. I've had experience with.
Is there any other additional things that you implemented? Or was that all of it?
That was pretty much it on that side of things. I've tried, also like the natural test boosters and things like that. I think the D-aspartic acid was probably the only thing that may have moved the needle a little bit on that. But hey, when you're trying to avoid going to the fertility clinic, you'll throw the kitchen sink at the problem, right?
Okay, cool. Because of all the drama of the last company that I was working with, and I'm not trying to point any fingers or anything, but you guys definitely have probably heard what was going on. I've been a little bit skeptical, to be honest, and I've been wanting to find an HRT company that I could work with and that I could get my blood work done with, and that would offer me some proper guidance without upcharging all of my homies and shit. So there's this kind of crazy opportunity that I feel like the universe has granted, because it's not something that I searched for necessarily, but ended up being through connections with my closest friends. And it's this new company I was working with, Optimize HRT, which Nathan was recently discussing. And I just gotta say, man, I'm really proud of everything that they've created and everything that they're standing for. They're trying to take advantage of the fact that they know what went wrong with the last HRT company and trying to make sure that that doesn't happen this time, if you know what I'm saying, and doing things the right way. So this company is where I am getting my blood work done from, and basically getting all my health measures and protocols for longevity checked. And basically the difference between an HRT clinic and a research chem gray market source is that the HRT clinic works with a 5083 compounding pharmacy. You can get all your peptides and your medications prescribed by the doctor. If you're not getting a hormonal peptide or medication such as testosterone, nandrolone, minstrol, or Anavar, which you can get prescribed to yourself if the need is shown, such as like osteoporosis or some other muscle wasting disease, then luckily you can get the peptides prescribed to you without having to get blood work done. But they do offer at a $100 membership that includes free blood work, which is normally a $420 panel every 3 months. And with the membership, you also get a wellness specialist that is like your peptide coach that will, with the doctor, give you the best peptide protocol or medication protocol to make sure you reach your goals. And these are goals such as fertility goals, cutting down and getting fucking jacked, composition goals, longevity goals, basically everything that you can imagine that is fucking sick for dudes. The other great thing, aside from getting everything prescribed, which obviously you can show your destinations if you're traveling, your prescriptions, so you're not getting thrown into jail in Tokyo or some shit. It is sent with cooling, needles, and instructions, which is actually illegal for research chem science. And in terms of safety and quality, Optimize HRT does work with a 5038 compounding pharmacy, in which the FDA checks for its inflow and outflow currents to make sure that there are no vortexes that cause contamination, which yields the highest threshold of safety, basically. So this is on an opinion by opinion basis. Like, if you decide that you want to go the cheaper route, then normally gray market sources that are research chem sites will normally offer these for cheaper. Since the company is still new, they are offering their peptides at the lowest cost that they can in respect to other HRT companies, because they are trying to get their member base up. So if you are wanting to join an HRT clinic, now is probably the time. And that link is going to be in the description if you guys are interested. You could also use code NILE whenever you apply, because that helps your boy out and gives me a little reference and gives me some creds. So they know I'm sick and that people actually like the podcast, which would be pretty awesome. since I am helping with the start of this company, I want to make sure that this is the best company that could possibly give us the best experience. So if you guys happen to have any questions or any concerns, bring this shit up with me, man, because I want to make sure that we all grow this to be the best that we can, and we all grow together, obviously, because otherwise my podcast is shit, and everything that I've like worked for is like fucking pointless. So that's what it's all about, bro. Is family and brotherhood, and us getting fucking yoked.
I was just in the other room. I was in the other room laughing my ass. Like, I just saw your text.
Which one?
When you said the debate was over faster than the Conor McGregor fight.
Well, he didn't really want to debate. Like, I at one point, I thought you were really going to.
He started off wanting to debate.
At one point, though, I thought, like, in the first, like, couple minutes, that I thought you were literally going to just say, like, well, I came here to debate, and you just seem to be spouting off random facts. Like,
he was just spitting anecdote pretty much.
The first few minutes, I was like, okay, well, thanks for teaching me how to stay regular. Like, but can we, like, get to the whole Palumboism thing? Stop pitching fibrilize.
Bro, 30 minutes of fucking fiber. I was like, come on.
I was like, why are we pitching this product? Like, you can literally go to CVS to get the same thing for like $15.
I give my clients Metamucil. Right. It works perfectly.
Yeah.
All right, we're going to jump to this Q&A.
No.
Matt Black asks, is Reta bad for people with a borderline low ejection fraction, 54% on left ventricle?
I wouldn't think so, honestly. It just going to depend on the situation. Where did he say what's causing it? Like, what is it? What is EGFR actually is?
He just said 54% on left ventricle. That's it.
I mean, in situations like that, I think taking less is more. Unless he's got a problem with, unless he's overweight and has a problem with that and has high blood pressure. If the high blood pressure was resulting from being overweight, then in that situation, I would think maybe it would help because it would help him lose weight. But it's really hard to answer this question about context because we don't know why he would be taking it. You know, sometimes it'd probably be okay, sometimes it wouldn't be.
Right. And I always wonder if the heart rate increase might make any potential effect on any of that.
Absolutely. 100%. But it depends if he gets that particular side effect or not for whatever reason.
Right. I definitely do on Reta for sure.
Yeah. The only thing I would add to that is that, look, the glucagon that's in there is going to increase your resting heart rate and things like that. So anyone that already has an existing heart condition, I would be more hesitant to put on, Reta or suggest Reta versus something like a Tirzepatide that wouldn't cause the same increase in resting heart rate.
Good point.
Or we should just give them Tren and Clen and put them in a sauna.
Why don't we add in some BAM 15, maybe some DNP too? Why not?
Bissell23 asks, does he ever use 5-amino-1-MQ with his clients?
Me?
Yeah,
probably you.
No, I don't. I barely even know much about it.
Yeah, the only thing I have is my experience for prep with 5-amino. I would say that's my favorite. I feel like SLU is like whatever, and like MOTS-c was like whatever. Like I think maybe it could have potentially helped with 5-amino. I think really made the biggest difference for me the last few weeks before show. So
for me, I'm slightly different on that. It'd be SLU, 5-amino, then MOTS-c is last.
Okay, so you really like SLU.
I do. Like it, that really helped me strip the fat off without having to utilize things like Clen or T3, even leading into my last show. That definitely helped me.
What were you running it at again, though? What dose?
Me or Phil?
You. Not you. No.
The person talking, dude.
So I wave loaded it. And so I would do 100, 200, 300, 400, back down to 100.
Okay, but you like the mega doses. Okay,
yes.
Gotcha.
Yeah. I was not running 1 milligram. I was not running 500 micrograms. Like the whole 500 microgram and 250 microgram thing just came out because it was too expensive for anyone to be able to sell it at the when it initially came out. Like no one wanted to pay those prices for it, and so people were like, "Well, this is a great compound. How can we sell this and make a buck?" Oh, I'm going to way underdose it. So that's why those even came about.
Well, I think a lot of the people will have to use your
your
support protocol. I think people will really have to use your support protocol though in order to do the high dose SLU, because otherwise all the people that I've heard that do utilize SLU, their opinion is that it doesn't really move the needle very much, but that's also because they're using the lower dose protocols in micrograms, since the higher doses cause a lot of fatigue in their
I think
position.
there was a lot of ranting and raving about how great it was at the very beginning with those low doses. I think that was a lot of BS and placebo, because the research mechanisms made sense, but the dosing didn't, right? And then Gorilla Chemist is actually the very first one that looked at the research. He's like, guys, like you're out of your freaking mind. Like this is not even close to the dose that we're supposed to be using. And then when he finally did it, he did it, and then he had some other people do it. And then like I was texting with him, he's like, I am fucking positive, like this is the dose. Like they're just, it was in their head, like the microgram doses, it was in their heads.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
Brian absolutely killed it.
I'm sorry that I'm brain farting, and I'm asking you to say this one more time, but can you say again what were the sports that you were doing in order for you to run those doses aside from the wave dosing, Mike?
So it was the antioxidant support. And, for me, I just got lazy on buying, 5 different antioxidants. And so I just created Mito Armor, which is sold by AICAR Supplements or supplement company, that has CoQ10 in it. It has PQQ in it, Mito Burn in there, all these different natural ingredients to help support your mitochondria.
Okay, gotcha. Cool. Bissell23 asks when to pull out the clen before a show.
I don't pull clen out before the show. I reduce it because I'm not going to do anything drastic that's going to shift the body in the opposite direction. So what I do is I will go to basically my top dose, wherever point I need to, and then close to peak week, I'm going to taper it down. I'm not going to do anything that could potentially be a shock to the system and, completely beta agonists and potentially risk a crash or any type of adverse reaction. Maybe you can, maybe you can't. Some coaches do. I absolutely refuse because I think it's a very risky move.
Yeah, I think tapering it down too.
I would say 20 micrograms a week of the show.
Mike Miller, Japan asks, why do orals make such a full and hard appearance in prep compared to injectables?
Well, you're just going to have sharper rises in blood levels. So when you have sharper rises in blood levels, they're going to be a little more potent. I'm very careful about how I say things about certain drugs online and talk about them. But, essentially a higher dose with without the side effects is typically going to have a more extreme effect, right? Like that's why we see a lot of coaches banging Masteron into grams now up to the show. Back in the day, Masteron was 100 milligrams every other day of the show. That was like a normal dose. Then it went to 150. Then it became 100 every day. Now we got guys running 1 and 2 grams going into the show. Why? Because, listen, I'm not gonna lie. Listen, viewers don't do this shit. If you're not a competitor, you're not getting on the Olympia stage, don't do it. But 1 to 2 grams of mast, yeah, I mean, if you're not getting side effects, it's going to work better. It's going to make you harder. We see this like literally across the board. One coach's, hardening protocol was 300 mgs of Winnie a day, 300 mgs of Master a day, 300 mgs of Proviron a day. The higher doses are just going to be, more effective. And with the oral, you're going to have sharper rises. Dude, people do it. You think that's insane, dude? That's near the highest doses that I've heard about the Olympia stage. Even the current crop, that's not the highest doses that I've heard of. That's actually pretty. If I were to tell you 300 mgs of mast a day, 300 mgs of
300 mgs of Winnie a day. It's crazy.
Listen, it's not for 16 weeks. It's for 1 week. 2 weeks, 3 weeks, something like that. But you're just throwing Halo on top of that. They're throwing Supergirl on top of that. They're throwing AIs on top of that. Like, dude, like these guys, listen, they're doing what they feel they have to do. Now, if you're getting side effects and adverse effects from it, there's not going to help. If you start to induce kidney stress, there's no diuretic that's going to get you dry. If you got the whole system stressed and cortisol's through the roof, it doesn't matter what you take and it's not going to work. You're not going to peak, So, but if your body can handle it, the higher doses in certain circumstances are going to work better. But here's the thing. If you're not peeled, it drives me nuts. It's people in the summertime. Oh, I'm going to take Master and you're going to the beach at 12% body fat. That's not going to do anything. Nothing. Zero. Like it's not going to make you harder. Like, but I have abs. You have blurry abs. You have soft abs. It's not going to harden you even 1%. It's not going to make any visual difference whatsoever, except for the AI properties, maybe that'll pull a little bit of water out. But you can't see hardening effects until somebody's damn near peeled for the stage. So for anybody who's doing this for their gym look and this and that, it ain't going to work. Don't even bother.
Phil, I got a question for you actually related to this. Given that there's a loophole. APR does not utilize this. I will just say this right now, but there's a loophole with pure DHT that people are able to sell it. So what's your thought on running pure DHT instead of something like Provirine?
I've never tried it. I don't honestly know. See, what happens is we're running DHT derivatives, right? So theoretically, they would have similar effects and things like that. I can't tell you. I'm not gonna sit here and talk about something that I don't know. Because I haven't researched this, I haven't looked into this. Mechanistically, I can kind of work it out, but I'm not gonna take any type of stance when I don't know.
Gotcha.
I feel like if I took that many orals, I would be confident to say that almost all people who took that much orals are going to have a hard time doing the carb up that they had planned before.
Yeah,
my acid reflex would be through the roof.
That's why I'm saying.
That's why I'm saying. At least a little bit.
If you can take it without the adverse effects, that's one thing. Now, livers are going to place a tremendous amount of orals are going to place a tremendous amount of stress on the liver. If your liver becomes compromised, your ability to digest fats and the rest of your food becomes compromised. If that happens, then you can't absorb your food. You're not going to peak for stage. So like, for example, Luke, for example, you guys saw he was third in Cali, did well in Reno, was completely peeled, great condition. We didn't do any orals. We didn't know. We might have done, I think we did Supertrol like 1 or 2 days before Reno. That was pretty much like we ran no orals at all because it was messing with his digestion. I'm like, then we're not doing this. We completely pulled him out. Like he didn't use them at all.
I think people forget too that liver health plays a big impact on how much fat you can strip off anyway, and at what rate you're going to strip it off too.
You know what's crazy is back in the day, like when I first signed up with HD Muscle, it was because I loved their health supplement line. Like Dorian Hamilton's a good friend of mine, and it was funny because he asked me to like sign on with him and like a couple of times, and I just really didn't want to be affiliated with a supplement company. And then he started talking about the health supplements, and I said to him, I posted this conversation online to show transparency, to show this is true. I was like, it would be awesome if there was a liver and kidney product that did this, and this. He sent me the labels. It was exactly what I said. I was like, all right, I'm in. So I started trying to like push. I was like, dude, I was shocked. I was like, damn. I was like, you know what? Dorian's really smart. I should have figured he would have figured that out, because he's really good at formulations. So I started trying to push the health supplements and nobody cared. Finally, when I started saying, hey guys, like if your kidneys aren't healthy, you can't get dry for stage. And if your liver's not healthy, you can't get peeled. Now everybody wanted to buy them. Not because they wanted to live long or be healthy. I can't get in shape. Like, come on, guys.
Yeah. Further support for why just like being healthy in general is also going to get you just a better body. So that's why bigger dose. That's why bigger dose, in my opinion, is not always the answer. No, it's not a smart move. But listen, some of these pros have that like super health where they can take anything and not get these adverse effects. Mm-hmm. Powell Iwanowski 97 asks, Tren on first 2 months or last 2 months in the off season?
In the off season, I usually use Tren for a strength boost, because what you want is typically when you're trying to build, you want to push your numbers up first. Not because the strength gains are what's going to translate to muscle, but because the heavier weights translated into volume is what's going to build muscle, right? And so at the beginning of a bulk, you're going to obviously make your best gains. So that's the point in which I'm trying to push their numbers way up, right? With good form, not with broken form. I want to push your numbers up with good form. And I'm going to be doing it, and depending on your age, 5, 7, 8 rep range, something like that, because that's going to push strength up fastest. I'm sure Mike's going to agree on that one. And then at that point, what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch you into a higher rep range, but you'll have made so much progress with strength. You'll be doing a much heavier weight in higher rep ranges for more volume. And that's where the muscle is going to come from. So Tren always at the beginning of a bulk, if you're going to use it.
Gotcha. Shiva asks off-season cycle and peptide stack.
This is situational. It's going to depend on the person. Like there's a lot of individualization to this.
Mike, what would you do for the peptide stack?
To Phil's point, it is individual on that side as to what you need to repair the most. I mean, like if we're going from competition prep to the off season, I'm going to try and get them as healthy as possible first before we start. Then, at some point you're going to start needing to add in some of these items that can help with insulin sensitivity and things like that, whether that's a MOTS-c, what have you, on those side of things, because you're going to be pushing the calories high, you're going to be pushing the carbs high, things like that. So that it can certainly help you in those regards. Then, some people respond well to IGF-1 and things like that, whether that's DES or LR3 or actual Increlex, things like that, to utilize in the off season there as well. So to me, it's usually at the front of the off season, you're focusing more on the health and recovery side of things, after, a competition season and things like that. So, utilizing your glutathione high levels, whether you're doing that intramuscular IV therapy, things like that, BPC 157, TB 500, to help with any injuries that you sustained. Well, especially, if you're looking extra crispy and dry, chances are you're going to do a little bit of tendon damage and things like that. So,
okay, yeah. We talked a lot about the recovery part in the middle of the podcast. So what about after recovery? Is there anything that you would implement?
Yeah, I mean, so, I'm trying to think, you're going to target more towards mTOR benefits versus AMPK at that point, because mTOR is what builds the muscle. And a lot of the items that you utilize during your prep are going to be AMPK based. Because you're trying to increase your rate of fat loss, you're trying to increase your endurance and things like that. So, that's more, there's only so many peptides, right, that we have for muscle building impact, whether it's, insulin technically. Go ahead, Phil.
I have a different angle I can give on this, because I don't want to just leave everybody hanging with the it depends angle. So let me generalize on each end of the spectrum to give everybody an idea of what exactly I mean, why this is individual, right? So if I have somebody who has a higher propensity of putting on body fat, right, like bigger bone person, bigger thicker person, is much more likely to get fat. What I'm going to try to do is I'm going to try to design a stack and an entire approach that's going to be geared more towards keeping them insulin sensitive and keeping them responsive and not letting them get too fat, because their bodies are already storage geared, right? So if they store a lot of body fat, they probably store a lot of everything. Their bodies are more storage geared, so they probably usually they'll muscle better too. So I'm trying to keep that person in a more controlled, compositional state, as far as not letting them get fat, not letting them mess up their composition. So I'm going to use more different drugs and stacks, nutrition, training, cardio, and things like that are going to be more conducive to keeping that person leaner and more responsive. Whereas if I have somebody with a much faster metabolism, somebody who's skinny, somebody who's not real full, is always dry, is always lean, has a hard time putting on muscle, right? So that person has a hard time volumizing their muscles. So what I'm going to try to do in that instance is I actually probably want to try to make that person more water retentive. How can I get them to eat more calories? How can I get them to shuttle more of this food into their, into their muscles and where we want it to be? So that person's going to be, I'm going to err more towards a surplus, whereas the other person, I'm going to err more towards where that line is. So one person, I'm really trying to fill out and volumize and push as many calories as possible. This other person, I'm trying to control their composition and control their response so things don't get too out of hand, so we don't start moving backwards. So that's why there's two opposite ends of the spectrum, but usually everybody lies somewhere in between there. And this is why you need to analyze each person individually to determine how much this way you are, how much that way you are, or what combination in order to determine what exactly it is that I need to do. So that's what I mean by it depends, because it really does depend.
Yeah, in terms of compound selection, Broderick Chavez said something very similar. Chavez.
So I'm going on the peptide side of things. I'm just going to be honest here in that we focus on health, longevity, and fat loss. That's really what 98% of our entire peptide catalog covers. There's not much in this grand scheme of things that we cover for muscle gains. I mean, what do you have? You have HGH, you have insulin, IGF-1. Right, that's pretty much it.
We can argue that
in terms of direct muscle gains, but in my opinion too, when it comes to pro bodybuilding, everything that's there for risk mitigation and longevity is going to contribute to your growth long term. So I think people should just make sure
but
to
we could also
implement those when they
argue
can.
that some of those compositional peptides that control them for somebody who's more endomorphic type body type will be beneficial in the off season, but still allow you to control their composition and not get their insulin sensitivity screwed, right? So we can use those in that situation to make the muscle building process and environment, or better than it would have been.
Yeah, agreed. Luke Cebulski says, if Phil could go back to his first couple cycles, what would he change?
I wouldn't be a bodybuilder. I'd go the MMA route. My first few cycles, honestly, I came from an era where people were scared of drugs. So I didn't go crazy at the beginning. My first, like the cycles that I run my kids on now, my teens, their first few cycles are higher than what I ran because I just didn't know any better. I was scared. There were, certain doses were the boogeyman. Everybody was afraid. My first cycle was 250 milligrams of test every 5 days. That was my first cycle. And I used the Primo testings, the little amps. And I think I had like 20 or 25 of them. And I just did one every 5 days until I was done. And then I think my second cycle was 500 milligrams a week of tests. And no anabolic, no oral, no nothing. Like, I just didn't know what I was doing. There wasn't a lot of information back then, But like, kids are a lot bolder today with their cycles and their doses. And I've seen some wild first. Niall, I'm sure you've had kids send you some crazy first cycles, and you're just like, "What are you doing? Like, why would you do that?" Because they don't think that anything bad could happen. They don't realize because all these kids are running crazy cycles now. If I had it to do over, I would be smarter. I would get better at training nutrition first.
I'm going to be honest, and I don't mean that. It makes me feel cocky saying this, but I'm just like very proud of it and very happy. But now, whenever I have people come up to me and talk to me about like how they're starting or how they're still nannying, etc., I'm only having kids that are like starting base from like a very, very. I have kids that are like starting at TRT first and then moving up, and they're just like so much more conscious and smart about it. And they're like, thanks to this podcast, all the coaches that have been on this podcast, everybody is kind of on the same page when it comes to titrating things and taking. That's realizing great. That this is whatever it's called. It's a long journey. I don't know.
Dude, that means you've got a positive industry, bro. That means you've got a great thing.
Yeah.
Well, you guys too. I mean, it's really all of you guys and all the guests that have been on here.
You picked the guests, though, right?
A listener.
No, that's a phenomenon that for our industry, and because you have so much exposure and so much reach, that means you're being a positive influence on a lot of these kids and a lot of this industry. So I applaud you for that. I didn't know that. I love hearing that. That's phenomenal.
Yeah, it's really cool. The thing I'm most happy about though is like the youngest kids that have come to me and they're just like, dude, I'm like, these kids are so fucking smart now. I'm like, what the fuck? Like, I don't know. It's just wild.
They're not morons like I was, like when we talked about I maxed out the blood pressure cuff before. It was like, it's 200 over 110. Like, no, that's bad. That's not a good thing. Like, you don't want to have a freaking tomato face all the time. Like, yeah, that's what it was though back in the day, especially with some of the strength athletes and all. We didn't care. We threw caution to the wind on it. Sure. It didn't matter. Just get the damn weight.
Yeah, for sure with the strength. Connor F28 says ways to mitigate hair loss with compound selection and ancillaries.
What do you ask?
Ways to mitigate hair loss.
Mitigate
with
hair
compound
loss
selection with compound selection and ancillaries.
That's a tough one, man, because honestly, like recently, the only things that I can even touch in even small doses are like DECA-EQ and DHB. Because if I do even a little bit of test, my hair starts falling. And even if I'm on steroid, even if I'm on steroid, if I touch even a little bit of test, it starts falling. And I tried everything. So like that's just me personally. That's an anecdote. So that doesn't really mean anything other than that was my experience. But I mean, I don't know that I know a lot of people that have tried to mitigate hair loss on steroid cycles, and I know very few that have succeeded. If they were genetically predisposed, I don't think I know anybody who was able to actually stop it once it started if they're predisposed to it. The people that have their hair...
As far as stopping... Yeah, it's still going to happen no matter what. But like, I think in terms of just slowing it down, the best thing you can do is.
I mean, I've tried Ditreptine,
and if you just risk
risk
topical of that, and then minoxidil and ham, because both of those compounded together is like it exaggerates its effects. And then microneedling, if you can do that correctly as well. Prefer the Derma. What is it? The something 9000, whatever the machine is that pokes the holes instead of the actual roller. Roller can cause tearing in your scalp. And then finally, visual hair growth with BPC, PAL, GHKCU, vitamin E, minoxidil, finasteride. Oh yeah.
I mean, listen, that's going to give you
in there too.
That's going to give you the support that you need, but I mean, it's not going to overpower the cycles, you know?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, exactly. It's not going to overpower the cycle. Also, I would say find which compounds you tolerate the best, because that's a little bit individual on that side. I've seen people that just, they can't take Anavar. Like they take Anavar and all their hair is freaking gone. Versus
that's me.
I can pound it and it doesn't impact my hair the same way as other compounds do.
Pharma grade Anavar and Winstrol fucking rape my hair, bro. So bad. But it also made me look so juicy.
I mean, Anavar was a staple for strength for me, and that was okay with my hair. But Masteron
was my worst.
Yeah, I had no hair practically in my wedding photos thanks to that one. So, and my wife will never let me live that one down.
Fire. Isaac ZR7 asks thoughts on Ray Pete and his ideology on biogenetics, carb heavy diet for thyroid.
Who is this?
Ray Pete.
Ray Pete? I don't know who that is.
And his ideology on biogenetics and carb heavy diet for thyroid.
I have no idea who that person is or their theory.
Same. I can't comment on that.
I've heard his name before, but I don't know anything either, so skip. One asks thoughts on GH pin pre-workout fasted, lifting off only intra carbs and EAAs.
Say that one more time. That sounded like a jumbled sentence.
Interesting. Thoughts on GH pinned pre-workout fasted, lifting off only intra carbs and EAAs.
Oh, okay. I mean, listen, that could work. GH isn't necessarily going to make you sleepy, but I mean, depends on how soon pre-workout, right? Like it takes time for the elevation to occur, hours. So you're not going to pin GH and run right to the gym and get any type of muscle building benefit from it. You might get some lipolysis from it. Now, operating off of just an intra workout for your morning workout, that's absolutely doable. But like when I do that with people, I make sure they have a big bedtime meal of carbs. So what I do is I pull carbs out of the middle of their day. I backload them at the end so that they're waking up with some sort of glycogen, because you don't want to put them to bed on like no food and have them wake up and just go into the gym with an intra. It's not going to do very much. Loading your glycogen stores takes time, and an intra can help, but it's not going to do the bulk of the heavy lifting. So if you're going to be in that circumstance, you want carbs at bed. The GH pre-workout, yeah, that'll help some. I mean, as far as lipolysis, but it's not really going to do much for you. You're better off taking that at bedtime so that your levels are elevated by the time you get up in the morning and you have higher IGF-1 levels and you can be more responsive in that sense. So I would just do the GH before bed, but I would definitely make sure I had a big carb. I mean, if I'm getting technical here, I would do my carb meal at bed. I would drink a bunch of water before bed. So I wake up to piss in the middle of the night. That's when I would do my GH. And I would go back to bed. Then I would get up in the morning. I would do some pre-workout Rice Krispie treats, and I would do my intro.
You know what? That was the exact same thing I was going to say was that, and I know Andrew Barry mentioned that too, having the HGH already preloaded into the pin. So that way when you wake up in the middle of the night to go to the bathroom, you take it in the middle of the night. Yep.
That's what I used to do. Since I wake up every night anyways.
Well, here's the thing. You're gonna get your biggest GH pulse 2 hours into REM, right? So you could still get your biggest pulse and then wake up to piss and then take your GH and not have suppressed it. Kind of stacking it.
Billy asks, why do Phil and Palumbo have beef?
I explained that all over my page. He irritates me. He says a lot of dumb shit that's wrong.
Okay. We don't have to talk about this. We're good. Let's just go to Phil's page. Andrake 048 asks when to know how much gear is not enough, and too much.
How to know when it got enough, when gear is not enough, too much, and not enough?
When to know how much? Yeah.
Pull your blood work.
Well, no, I don't think the blood work is going to be reflective because I mean, as far as side effects, yes, but I mean, if you have to make sure you're training and eating, or your training and eating are proper first, because if that's not in line, you don't know how the work that the gear is doing. So if your gear and training is perfect first, then you just start a little bit of gear and keep growing and keep titrating the food up and keep training hard, pushing your numbers up on the wall, and you increase your doses a little bit. You don't ever make junks though.
Yeah. In my opinion, enough is actually a bigger range. So it's like you don't have there's no perfect number. It's like a range that you'll play around with. And then over time, as you have biofeedback, you read your biofeedback properly. That's what allows you to really hone in on like, all right, I feel great at 600. I don't run into blood pressure issues. I don't run into gut issues. I can run this for like 16 to 20 weeks fine with good blood work. And then I can come off and I'll be fine. And then maybe next time I can run it higher and I don't run those issues. But if you start running into the issues, then it's too much.
You want to run the least effective dose. That's what you want to run. You want to run the least effective dose where you're still growing. What happens is as doses start climbing, like I said before, do you get more gains as doses start climbing? Yes, but there's a law of diminishing returns. You get significantly more side effects as those doses go up. So the higher the dose gets, you're getting more benefit, but less and less of it. Whereas the side effects are going up and up and up. So your side effects are climbing and your returns are starting to diminish. So you want to go as slow as possible, but you do want to get as big as possible as early in your life, because the older you are, the more it's going to affect your health.
You don't think highest tolerable dose?
See, the thing is, why would you go to highest tolerable dose if you don't need to? Because where do you go up from there? Where do you step up from there, right? You don't want to have to continually take big steps. You want to be able to continually take small steps. So like you won't see very many of my clients. I don't think I have any clients on 3 grams right now. I think the highest might be low 2s, and I have pros, I have everybody, just because I don't think that those doses are necessary. If you can get the person responsive and get them growing, then I think that, the lowest effective dose is going to, if they're growing, what's the problem? You can only grow at such a rate anyway.
Yeah. You can only grow at such a rate anyway. That's like the biggest line. I think that's just good to like end these conversations with, is people forget. Like you just, there's the only few people that like do the whole like, oh, I blew up in like 30 pounds in like a few months or something. Those are also always the ones that tend to hyper respond to whatever dose they're on anyways. And they were in a state where everything was sensitive, insulin sensitivity. They've been off gear for a while, etc. Or they had a perfect chance to like rebound. It's always situational and genetics, in my opinion.
I think a lot of people have things misconstrued in this industry, but I'm going to say on average, the biggest guys are usually on lower doses than the smaller guys, simply because the smaller guys are continually pushing doses, trying to get bigger, whereas the bigger guys never had that problem. Now, are some of the biggest guys on really high doses? Yes. Are some small guys on normal doses? Yes. But I think in general, the bigger guys are usually on less than the smaller guys. And the smaller guys think that it's all drugs, and it's not. The large part of it's just genetics.
Gotcha. Cool.
I was going to say, I can't count how many times I've seen the pros being on half the dose of the guys that are stuck at the national level.
Yeah, 100%. 100%.
Jack of all trades asks Mike, aka the Fit Executive, what's your executive nootropic stack?
Yeah.
Ooh, that is a good one. So I cycle my nootropics, so that way I do not build a tolerance to any one individual one. So I will actually plan my week like on a Sunday or Saturday in advance, so that way I know what my schedule is like. So especially like in the corporate world, I knew what days were going to be more busy than others and which days I might be more tired than others. So, on the more tired days, that's when I'm running a wakefulness promoting nootropic like modafinil, armodafinil, something like that. It may paracetam with it for some concentration. But then there's going to be days where I need to zero in on, I was IT, a head of technology. And so I might have to do some advanced coding or review someone's code, something like that. So that's when a PRL, with a dihexa might be used. So that way I had the ultimate concentration that was going on at that point in time. So Yeah, I like to cycle them based on what the individual day is, and also that way I don't build any tolerance to any individual one.
I for like maybe the last year or so, I've been using Mike's NeuroLift for my podcasts, which is bromotain 20 milligrams and Neuropept 10 milligrams. So I still have this right here. I don't know, I like it.
I'm gonna have to try that.
Yeah, I like it a lot. Honestly, that and like, even though it doesn't work so well with some people, like I've always loved Alpha Brain, honestly. I don't know why, it just works really well for me. But
so the newer methylene blue product that I have out, the NeuroVault MB, has pretty much all the ingredients as the Alpha Brain with methylene blue in there.
Oh, okay. Nice. Cool.
Yeah, right. That one's a pretty good combo I found. And also for anyone
so
that
you're gonna send that to me then. Gotcha. Cool. Awesome.
Yes, you know I will. And I will say though too, anyone that does suffer from ADHD and takes ADHD medications, as such, again, I'm saying medical diagnosis, not off-label crap, and blah blah blah. If you take the bromotain about 30 minutes before the HGH medication, you'll actually need less of the HGH medication because it's already providing the dopamine enhancement in there. So that way you don't burn out on like an Adderall or a Vyvanse or something like that. And you can utilize a lower dose on that. So, which also is cardioprotective and things like that for you as well.
Okay, that's cool. Nate Poser 92 asks how much to start on APR injectable pre-workout.
Yeah. Sorry, which one was that?
How much to start on APR's injectable pre-workout? I'm not really sure which one. So
yeah, that one I'm not really so sure what they are commenting on because we do have a powdered for research purposes only. So energy enhancement research powder. The pre-workout though, I mean, I'm assuming it would be Fat Blaster, which was the Cardarine that Phil and I were talking about earlier, along with other items in there. That one would be a 0.5 ml to 1 ml before cardio generally.
How many milligrams is that? Do you know?
5.
Okay, gotcha. Cool. Lean Myers asks when to force reps when training alone, i.e. recruiting other muscles to engage.
How do you force reps alone?
I was kind of thinking about that too. When to force reps when
doesn't
training
make
alone.
Sense. You need a spotter to force.
He says
maybe like partial reps?
He's trying to say he has after that he says i.e. recruiting other muscles to engage. I'm not sure if he means like, you know,
cheating?
like I don't, yeah, like
swinging
or something in order to like get it back there so you could resist.
I can't answer the phone. I don't know what to. I'm not going to give anybody the idea that they can start cheating. Somebody's going to try to like cheat curl and break their back or something, or flutter their elbow on bench press. I honestly, I think that doesn't even really make much sense, and I'm not going to play into telling people they can go cheat and get hurt.
Yeah, let's not tear muscles.
Creating other muscles to engage. Yeah, I'm trying to think of what else he could mean, but George A asks him about John Kiriakou. Do you either of you guys know who that is? John Kiriakou.
Is he talking about the CIA guy? The guy on YouTube? I think that one's for you, Mike.
Oh yeah, it is.
I think he's the guy with the glasses that went to prison.
Yeah,
I listened to this.
I can't say I follow very many other intelligence people because honestly, I don't know how half of them talk about what they do because I don't know what freaking contract they signed, but what I signed was basically that I can't ever talk to the media about anything that I ever did. I'm not even technically allowed to talk to the press about non-relevant items. So I never know like how they talk about this stuff, but
some of the theories are that they are actually still inside the CIA and it's being used to influence the public.
I will say that's like the only thing that any intelligence agency is ever somewhat good at is actually influencing people through social media, through news stories, things like that. But generally, Phil, you and I have talked about this. The government's too inept to ever actually pull off a conspiracy theory.
I have one other friend that was in intelligence, and when I asked him about these people, his only answer was they have big mouths.
That's funny.
Yeah, I mean, the first
that's
thing,
so good.
And nothing else.
Awesome.
Since World War II, it's always been loose lips sink ships. So
Loose lips sink ships.
Yeah,
for
so
sure.
Keep your trap shut is what we were always
for
told.
Sure.
Some of this stuff is like interesting. Like that guy Andrew, what's his name? Bricchiamontes or something like that. Like they're good storytellers. They're entertaining to listen to. But how much of that could be?
Yeah, like the only ones that I ever knew of was like Snowden, who worked at the freaking guard shack, badging me in before some moron gave him a clearance to go work at the NSA or whatever. So
that's what he did. He worked at the guard shack.
Yeah, he worked at the guard shack when I was there. And so when this came out, I remember thinking, like, the moron that lets us go into the parking lot. Like, but yeah, I can't. Yeah, they're. I can't say I follow any of them or anything like that, because my own dad would probably kill me if I ever talked about a lot of stuff. He'd have no problem taking me out.
Well, I have one last question that I ask everybody at the end of every podcast that you guys have both heard before. But if you were to disappear from the world tomorrow and you had one message you could send, what would the message be?
Go ahead, Mike.
To the entire world.
I kind of wanted to hear yours first on that one.
I told you to go ahead because I haven't thought of one.
If I was to disappear tomorrow,
Mike's like, delete my browser
want
history.
APR. I want my legacy to be helping people live longer, healthier lives in the industry. Mm-hmm. That's why I got into this space, because I want to see bodybuilders stop dropping dead. I want to see, same thing with the strongman, things like that. That's why I started APR, because I got sick of making my living of wrecking livers, being in the alcohol industry, and instead I want to improve them. And so that's what I hope we can do, similar to, your mission with the podcast, Niall. It's to spread the knowledge to help people live longer, healthier lives.
Well, also because you utilize all of this stuff for yourself for your Crohn's disease originally, and then you're like, all right, all these peptides are freaking expensive. I'm just going to make them myself.
Yeah, I did want to make it more affordable to the masses, because it did help me get off of biologics, which freaking sucked when you're hooked up to an IV for 4 hours at a time, getting poison pumped into your veins, and then you can't get out of bed for 2 days afterwards. And that's what they were calling, therapy for your condition, versus, taking a peptide on a daily basis and not having to go through that, or not being put on low dose chemo because they thought that was going to help your immune system stop attacking itself. So, it's, again, it just goes to the whole, people in general. Like, it's not just fitness space that I want to concentrate on. It's anyone that has a health condition, that there are alternatives out there, and we can make people better and just happier with their life.
If I were to have a message to everybody, I would just hope that everybody could, be a little bit more selfless than they are now. The more we help each other, the more we do for each other, the stronger we're going to be in unison, right? There's strength in numbers, and 1 + 1 is not 2, 1 + 1 is 5. If we would all cumulatively, work together as a society, then I think that we would be better. I think that we'd be stronger. Like Mike said,
yeah.
I would want to leave knowing that I made a difference in this, and I'm still trying to make a difference in this. One of my, like I said, mentors we talked about earlier, John Meadows. Even I still have a text that I have saved to this day. He said, you're one of the only people in this space that could actually do these boot camps and deliver the information properly to the industry, and you should start doing them. So I have that saved in my phone. And I really just, John made a huge difference and impact on this industry. And I only hope that I could leave a portion of, a percentage of what he did and influence this industry in the right way. So that's why a lot of times when people see that I'm polarizing and they think that I'm attacking people and they think that I'm being mean, I'm doing it because I see it, what they're posting, as bad information. People like to use the cop out, the scapegoat of, oh, well, that's subjective. Everybody has different opinions. No, science is objective. This is factual. A lot of the things you're saying, you're trying to say, oh, well, that's Phil's opinion. It's not my opinion. It's what's correct. So when I see people spitting off, incorrect information, people are like, oh, don't attack people. Let them say what they want. They're making this harder for everybody to learn. If you're not sure about what you're talking about, you shouldn't be talking about it. A lot of these people are ChatGPT and things and sharing knowledge as if they understand it and as if they know it. And what they're doing is they're walking back the progress of this industry. Whereas when I came up, if you weren't respected, if you didn't earn your reputation, you didn't speak. I was a dumb kid like a lot of these kids. And you know what happened? The older guys told me to shut the fuck up. And you know what I did? I shut the fuck up. Because I realized they probably knew something that I didn't, and that I may not just be seeing it. Now I'm glad I did, because when I look back, I didn't know what the hell I was talking about. And I wish these kids had more respect. I wish people would stop just trying to make content for their own benefit and their own marketing, and do it to help people. Do it the right way. If you don't understand something, you shouldn't be saying it. I want this industry to improve as a whole. I want everybody to learn more. I want people to be healthier. I want people to live longer, be happier. And I think that if we work together to do that, that's going to help, But I think that a lot of this misinformation is really hurt the process.
No, I totally agree with you that, man. Noel Dezel, if I said it right, made a reel kind of basically saying the same thing similarly. And, as you think about a lot of people who are creating content in order just for them to get clicks, even if it hurts somebody else. And then they say, then they're just like, oh no, this was just for the video, or like, this isn't my true personality. It's just for the clicks and stuff. But I'm like, you're still hurting this person. In the end, that's what matters, is your effect.
People need to look
your
at these
intention, in my opinion.
I think people need to look at these content creators, and you need to ask yourself, how did this person get this reputation in the first place in order to be saying these things? And if you look back, most of the time, there's nothing. It's themselves. They just started talking on camera.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you guys for coming on. I think that was so valuable in so many different places. So, is there anywhere where you would want people to go to or to find you in any sense? Like any place for coaching or any place for just like your socials or whatever?
I'm easy to find. Phil.biz on Instagram. You shoot me a DM. You fill out my application under my bio. I'm pretty easy to find.
I'm unfortunately a little bit harder because my Instagram gets taken down every 10 minutes, given my industry. So.
Just DM me and I'll give you a number.
Yeah, exactly. There you go. But otherwise, our website, aprhealthsolutions.com.
Cool. Awesome. Thank you guys.
All right.
Love y'all. 5 stars. Apple Podcast, Spotify. And code Nile. and code Phil if there is one.